All right, welcome to a new freeform, not freeform, Mark and Jerry with Charles, freaking
You
BS
don't even
session.
know what show you're doing.
I'm
You
fucking
got so
confused.
many.
I had 2 shots of tequila before I started. This now I'm on
Yeah.
whiskey, but I'm just saying, man. Welcome, guys. Jerry's not here today because he didn't want to use AI to tell what he wanted to do today. So I said this show is totally filmed in AI today. Joking, but Charles, man, what's up?
What's going on? We
Nothing, man.
got two of my favorite guests ever, Joseph Staub this week, and Rock All Over You podcast, my brother in blue, Oasis blood brother, Eddie Cannistraci. Welcome back to the show, fellas.
Of course, it's a pleasure.
Yeah, man. I
love
fucking
being
hate
on.
to say it. I love that new Noel album. Fucking Charles, you suck. Didn't want to listen to it.
Got you into it.
He got me. What the fuck? I want to stay out of that.
I could say it doesn't surprise me. You're into a lot of like melodic pop rock, and that's what Noel.
There's a lot of Duran elements in it. I was listening to it. I go, damn.
He's British. I hear a lot of The Cure, a lot of the Smiths.
Yeah, I hear a lot of everything I like from the 80s.
Yeah.
So I was like,
yeah, definitely.
yeah, man.
Yeah, and Charles was just on. We just did a show like 2 days ago, so it's like we were talking about the Beatles. So that's going to be an upcoming rock overview. But yeah,
Oh, cool, man.
it's still. Wait, I'm figuring this out. It's still 3 a.m. now.
Yeah,
So it's
man.
only 3 a.m. when we're talking to you.
Pretty much.
It's 3 a.m. and Charles must be lonely.
Wait, wake up. Get his cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Coffee time. But what are we doing tonight, Charles?
The top 11 albums per us of 1988. A wonderful year in my life for sure. So I think that's going to be a fun topic tonight.
I don't think anybody could top my year in 1988. I fucking quit high school. I had a job. I freaking the Lakers, Niners, and fucking Dodgers won championships. Fucking what a great year. And in music, man. It's fucking
Is this
awesome.
when you started working at the fabled In and Out?
Yep. Well, 87.
Oh my God. That's like
87.
the most important year ever.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, the end of 80 in
Please
September
into
of
it.
87, I started there. So it was pretty
Okay.
close to 88.
It's close to that.
Yeah, I just remember listening to
Mental.
Mark and
Oh.
Brian at the World Series, giving them lucky butt up in the Oakland, rubbing his butt up there so the A's would lose. That's fucking funny. But when I was cleaning up at In-N-Out in 88, so there's a lot of good memories of that. And I said, fuck school. And then I got my diploma years later. So kids, you don't have to stay in school. You could get it later.
Or never at all.
Or never at all.
Yeah,
A lot of
fuck it.
people haven't. I don't think Dave Grohl's ever got his diploma, and he's doing fine, right?
I got a high school diploma. It's stashed somewhere. I don't know.
Mine's down here somewhere.
I never used it for anything. So
Yeah, but let's get into the BS. Let's start off with the big topic that happened this week. Let's see. I was gonna segue this shit. Let's see. We got the Beatles AI final album, and then Noel Gallagher calls AI the final nail in the coffin of music. Well, let's start with you, Eddie.
Well, first things first. Okay, yeah, that is fake news. There is not a Beatles AI album. I understand people are misreporting this all over the place. Okay, and it's not entirely AI the way people are thinking it is.
I know it isn't.
Yeah. So it's just a song. It's one song, and it's one of the 3 demos that Yoko gave them back in the 90s, 2 of which they used for the anthology Free as a Bird and Real Love. This was the 3rd song. They didn't end up using it. The quality was really bad. George Harrison said it was rubbish, and they decided, and maybe he was right, and they decided not to use it. But they're not replicating. When I first read it, I was like, oh, this is fucking bullshit. What are they doing? They're creating a fake AI John Lennon, because a lot of people are doing that now on YouTube, And so I was really upset at first. Paul had done a few things in the past couple decades that have rubbed me the wrong way. As much as I love Paul, I do think he's like bogarting the Beatles' legacy and making decisions that John and George would not have made, which I don't think is cool. And I kind of lumped this in with this. But once I read into it and all the details, it's a little douchey, but not quite as bad as I thought. It's essentially they're using AI to essentially clean up the demo. You know, they're not actually making a new John Lennon. They're just using AI to remove some of the hiss and sound and to separate the sound of his voice from the sound of the piano. So essentially, they're kind of using it, you know, just technology just to clean up a demo, but that's not good copy. That's not a good news story. So, you know, and Paul himself kind of leans into it, like, ooh, look, we're using AI. So they're kind of making more out of it to make it seem like, you know, more than what it is, which is just, they're just cleaning up an old fucking demo. And then they're gonna, I don't know, guess, because there was some preliminary work done on this song back in the 90s. So maybe George did have some kind of guitar line on it and Ringo did a few things. I mean, I'll be honest, I wasn't crazy about what they did with demos in the anthology. Not that they didn't make them sound like fairly decent songs, but the idea of it, I don't know. I just don't buy what Yoko said. Yoko gave Paul a demo, 3 demos, and said John marked it for Paul. Yeah, I don't buy it for a fucking second. In the late 70s, John was not writing these songs thinking he was giving them to Paul McCartney. It was the 90s. Yoko was running out of money. It's expensive to, you know, upkeep the Dakota and live in Manhattan. So she suddenly grabs 3 John demos and writes in for Paul. Here you go, Paul. John really wanted you to finish these kind of half-ass songs of his. No, John would have hated that. The last thing John would have wanted would have been to give these songs to Paul.
John's a perfectionist, man.
He would have wanted to finish them himself. He's like, I'm the man. I'll go and produce these songs and finish them. And they don't sound like Beatles songs. They only sound like Beatles songs because they threw the Beatles on top of them, you know? So I don't like the whole idea. And then now on top of it, it's even worse because now even George is dead. And George said he thought the song was rubbish. So it's like it was bad enough you're going against John's wishes, in my opinion. Now you're going against John and George's wishes. They both would hate this shit. You know, let it go. You couldn't, you know, when Paul says, oh, it's a chance for our last Beatles song. You, Mr. Paul McCartney, wrote a last Beatles song. You wrote a whole great suite. It's the fucking end of Abbey Road. You can't top that. You can't carry that weight in the end. You're literally saying goodbye. It's the ultimate mic drop. Can't top that. Don't like it. That's my rant. And I'll let Charles weigh in on the Beatles stuff before I rant about AI in general. But in terms of this specific issue, AI or no AI, I don't like this idea of cleaning up old solo John Lennon demos and retroactively making them Beatles songs. It's bullshit. I don't like it. I'm not down with it. My opinion.
Well, then Charles, he said you, so go.
Yeah. Charles, the other Beatles guy, so he's got to weigh in.
I'm a Beatles guy too, but I just don't talk about it as much as you guys do. Go ahead.
Instead of I would have liked them to actually release Carnival of Light versus
that was an actual Beatles song.
Yeah, versus AIing. Is it Grow Old With Me? Because they had offered.
No, it's the other one. Yeah, that's right. There was 4 songs. It's is it Now and Then? Yeah, I think it's called Now and Then.
Oh.
Yeah, it's kind of like a melancholy piano ballad. I've heard it. It's all right. It's like, I feel like, have you ever heard it, Now and Then?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like something John maybe at a certain point might have dusted off and made a decent song, but it wasn't quite there yet. You're right, Charles froze.
Charles froze.
Oh my God.
He's frozen in time.
Wake me up, dead man.
Wake me up before you go.
Okay,
Joseph,
hey Joseph, what do you think of this?
what do you think of it?
So I mean, I'm right with you, Eddie. I mean, it's just I of course, being a latecomer to the Beatles' legacy and not like really getting into it. I mean, my dad was born the day the Beatles invaded America, so it's like I'm definitely a much a latecomer to the Beatles. But I mean, it's funny that, I mean, like you had mentioned, the 2 songs that they put out with the anthology. One of the funniest memories I can ever remember is one of the antique stores in my town. They have a big sort of CD, record, DVD section, and the guy that had this section put stuff at antique stores all over the place in our area. And one of the days I walked in, and there was just these giant stack of sealed copies of the CD singles of Real Love and Free as a Bird, just stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks of them. So I mean, this didn't really even go well in '96. I mean, they're trying to rehash this now, even all this time later. I mean, after the kind of resurgence of the Beatles with the Get Back documentary and everything, they're trying to do this now. It's just going to be the same thing over again. And now they're trying to add all this modern technology into it. And that's a whole separate issue. But again, like Eddie said, this is not something John Lennon would have wanted. And this is certainly not something George Harrison would have wanted, because he said it so back in the 90s. This song was rubbish. That's why they didn't release it.
Yeah, but CD singles, the real fans just bought the anthology. They didn't care about CD singles back then.
Yeah, but they were buying the anthology because
they were buying anthology. They didn't buy the singles.
Yeah, and they weren't buying the anthology for Real Love and Free as a Bird.
They wanted all those great unreleased.
Yeah, all the multiple takes and everything, and the interviews and that stuff. That's why they were buying it. So I don't know.
No, but I'm with Joseph because Joseph was with me, so that makes sense.
Well,
that adds up.
That's how it works.
Mark, while we're waiting on
Charles. Well, I think it's like you guys are saying, it's fucked up, dude. I love the Beatles. They're like I was saying yesterday, the first albums I bought were Sgt. Pepper's and Foreigner Double Vision. Happy 45th anniversary to Double Vision, by the way, which I played like a set of Lou Gramm on thatmetalstation.com last night. I played one song from Double Vision and one song from another Foreigner and then one solo Lou Gramm, because him and Dio are my all-time favorite vocalist. So that album Double Vision means a lot to me. But fucking so do the Beatles. And it's like why do you need to do this now? The Beatles are like the greatest band of all time. Everybody worships the Beatles, from fucking 2-year-olds to fucking 90-year-olds. There's no need to fucking put this shit out now. Just make a new album. I liked Egypt Station. A lot of people didn't like Egypt Station.
I liked McCartney 3. A lot of people didn't like McCartney 3, but I liked that. I thought it was a cool album. Yeah, just make your own music, Paul. You know,
it feels like every couple of years they have to find some way to milk whatever's left in the Beatles. I mean, you had the 8 days a week thing, you had the Hollywood Bowl, that whole thing, you had the Get Back documentary. Now you have this. So every year or two, they have to try to find a way to get back in the headlines with the Beatles, as if they're not already the biggest selling act in the history of music. They have to try to find some way to wring even more money out of it, and it comes off exactly as that, just a money grab.
Yeah, but to be honest though, I mean, I was talking to my mom about this the other night. Paul doesn't need the money. Obviously, he doesn't. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a whole army of people around him that it is a money grab. Like, this is why it's being encouraged. There's a lot of people that are going to make money off of this. But Paul himself, who is really like where the buck ends, with him, he doesn't need the money. But to me, it's more like he wants the attention. He wants people talking about him still, and we're relevant. Oh, look, the Beatles, AI, John's demo. It just, it starts a conversation. Whereas if he just dropped another solo Paul McCartney album, that's not going to get the same attention. So that's my thinking. I mean, don't you agree, Joseph, that for Paul personally, it's more kind of just wanting
probably
to focus on him?
And I think it almost might be an ego. It might even be an ego thing that I mean, to be Paul McCartney and to be this far into your career, and the fact that your name itself is not enough to get you in the headlines at this stage of your career, just his name and his solo career, that is not getting him the attention that he needs to continuously resurrect the Beatles name and continuously milk whatever's left, that every unreleased thing that he can find, is whether it's video, audio, demos, anything, that they're doing all this stuff. And then I just don't, I think it comes across as kind of like what you said, kind of like, look at me.
Yeah.
It's just,
but I do like Paul, but a lot, and love his music. But I remembered, I don't know if you guys remember, about 10 years or so ago, he did something that was very petty that I was a little shocked by, because I always thought Paul was more or less a decent guy from what I knew about him. But yeah, he did that live album where he inverted the Lennon McCartney credits. He did for the Beatles song, Suddenly he made a McCartney Lennon. And that was like, just seems so petty to me. It's like, that was like an agreement that you guys had as young men, that was the credit, Lennon McCartney, John Lennon formed the Beatles. He, looped you in. He was the older one. And it's even alphabetical. I mean, but that was always the term. It was like Lieber and Stroller. You were Lennon and McCartney. That was the songwriting team. And Paul took it upon himself for this live album to flip the credit. And that showed something very petty about him. And I was like, oh, maybe John's right about him. Maybe he is a cunt. Because
Paul said
that was a pretty
originally
petty move.
Paul did say originally that the song that Paul had more to do with, they had put McCartney and Lennon, but then they just kept it that way, and it pissed him off back then, and he tried to fix it, and then he goes, you know what, I'm dumb.
Okay, he could. I don't buy that for a second.
You don't buy that for a second?
I don't buy it for a second. I know Paul has, listen, all the Beatles had a cunty streak, but John and Paul were probably the top of that cunty streak. But I tell you, Paul, yeah, I don't know. I don't think maybe he's not the nicest guy in the world. That's all I said. All I know, he's a genius. John, God knows John wasn't the nicest guy in the world, if you know about him, but he's a genius too. They're geniuses, George wasn't that nice, and he was high, I wouldn't say genius, but very, very talented. And I like George, and George was definitely cooler. He kept more of a low profile. He wouldn't be doing all this headline grabbing shit like Paul. I'll say that for George. He kept it cooler. I like Ringo the best. I think Ringo's the personality wise. I think Ringo's the coolest member.
I'm going to speak up for our lost member tonight because he has personal reasons not to be here tonight. He'll be back next week, Jerry. He loves George Harrison, so that's his favorite Beatle. There you go.
I like George. This shit with Paul right now is maybe like George more. It's like George would never do this.
See, I think the thing with Paul, I get the impression that he's always kind of been a little, maybe to say, jealous of the label that John Lennon had, that John Lennon was like the true musical genius of the Beatles, that like in his solo career he was the one writing this sort of forward-looking avant-garde kind of stuff, whereas Paul was writing pop tunes with Wings. And like I feel like he kind of gets that impression where like John Lennon's the one going out playing with Frank Zappa and doing this sort of like really kind of more like forward-looking music, and then Paul is as well received as that kind of music was, and I prefer Paul's solo career vastly over John's solo career.
Me too.
But I think that always kind of got in Paul's head of that John was viewed as like the superior musician almost.
I get that. Definitely consider like the cooler guy or the more artistic guy. But this is the thing. Two things. A, John Lennon was tragically killed. 40 years old. You know how young that is? Like, think about that. Yeah. And then, Paul got to live so many more decades later than John. Like that alone. Like, can't you just give John, can he be the cool one? Is that all right? He's fucking dead. You got to live decades after him.
They're selling $3,000 tickets.
Yeah,
come on.
Calls Paul a genius now too. Musical genius. So let John still be the cool one in death. And second, it's counterintuitive because he's playing into that idea, because he's playing into this idea that, we need the genius of John Lennon. We need to dust off some half-ass demo of his from the 70s. Like, my stuff on my own isn't good enough. Like, that's to me what it says. It's like, hey, Paul, you don't want to be in John's shadow? Well, get the fuck out of his shadow then. No?
Hey, Charles, you were rudely cut off by your internet connection, man. So,
yeah.
What were you saying, man?
Oh, well, I mean, I'm not even that interested in new Beatles song, to tell you the truth. There's only one I care about, and that's Carnival of Light. Because that's a mythical song that hasn't been released yet. It's supposed to be really wild and out there. I'm more interested in what everybody's got to say about the AI. Yeah. Well, John was the best Beatle by far, by the way.
But Charles, did you know that the AI's it's not actually replacing John. It's just used to separate.
It's cleaning it up.
Yeah. But what do you think, Charles, in AI in general? Me and you did discuss this a bit about, because you sent me some of the Oasis stuff. And
I thought they did to get a song on the Get Back film too, with some AI cleanup.
Yeah,
It's
because
silly.
they did
like
use
clean up.
that director to clean this up, so that makes sense.
Yeah, I
Jackson.
don't.
Right, Peter Jackson. I love that guy.
AI music. Noel's maybe mad because they made a really good Oasis album with AI. I don't know without him. But I will say that album, the songs, not quite Noel's caliber songs, but it does sound like Liam on there. And Liam loved it, by the way. So that,
Of course he did.
of course he would, because he sounded phenomenal on it. I get why people would be upset about AI music. But to me, the cat's out the bag. And we can yell and scream about how we don't like it, but it's only going to be more and more and more. I find it somewhat fascinating, but yet I still can see why the purists would be upset, making Elvis sing Wu-Tang songs or something.
Well,
Might be
I'm
a little
just
much for somebody.
I had AI write like a fucking whatever Jeff called some kind of rock. And they wrote a song for it. I posted it. It was pretty horrible. Butt rock. Oh, butt rock. I said, AI,
Butt
write a
rock,
butt
yeah.
rock song. It was fucking
Was
horrible.
it a Sammy Hagar song that it
Well,
produced?
Charles said it could be.
The lyrics weren't too far off.
I am more freaked out about AI on things like taking jobs. Now, to Eddie,
Writer's strike.
there's talk of during the writer's strike, AI is going to take over. So,
That is one of the
Film.
reasons that the strike is happening. That's one of the things they're
So-
fighting.
Can I tell you something about that though? The guy from that show Black Mirror, he said he had AI write a whole Black Mirror episode, and it was shit. Just
Well, he
letting you
did it
know.
on purpose just to show how shit
How
the
bad
AI
it was, yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, it might start off being like shit, but there is a certain point where it will get close enough. I mean, you heard Charles thinks that Oasis album is not great, but close enough. It's kind of like, he didn't think it was like an abomination by any means. And I've heard stuff like, I heard that the one you sent me, I think you sent me, Charles, the Jim Morrison singing Lana Del Rey.
Ooh.
yeah.
During the verses, I have to admit, as much as I hated the idea of it, during the verses, I thought it sounded eerily convincing. It was good. Like during the chorus, I could hear there was something wrong, like because Jim wouldn't sing that fast or trying to because it's just a different songwriting style. Lana sings her choruses a little bit faster. She crams in more words. And Jim has this very slow approach. So it sounded a little unnatural, like hearing Jim's slow croon doing a Lana chorus. But the verses where she's more dragging out the notes in a more kind of Peggy Lee-esque style, that did fit Morrison's singing, and it sounded like decent. Like it didn't sound bad. It wasn't until the chorus that a little bit of the curtain started to drop a bit. And I realized, and that's what I made that joke with you, Charles, immediately, although I'm like kidding on the square. I'm like, this is how AI is seducing us, because we'll hear it, we'll think it's cool. People like it, will be seduced by this cool thing. But I don't know. The problem is not in and of itself like, ooh, a machine is making music. It's this idea. I won't get too long-winded about this, but it's kind of also a problem I have with all this worship of legacy acts and not new bands. And
I love new bands, man.
yeah, I know you do. And a lot of us support I think all of us here support new bands. Like we love our legacy acts, but we actually support new music too.
I'd rather go see new bands than legacy acts now, man.
I would too. I'd rather see
Except if it's Judas Priest or Iron Maiden. Shit, I'd be there in a second.
Yeah. Well, Judas Priest, even because they play like theaters, they're not doing stadiums. Well, that's why they kick ass. If they play a stadium, it wouldn't be half as cool. But I'm saying like the legacy acts, and I'm not talking like Judas Priest level. I'm talking like the Metallicas, the Guns N' Roses, the stadium filling acts, the Rolling Stones. At least
Metallica makes new music.
I do. I give them credit. They do the music. I'm not blaming any of the legacy acts themselves. They deserve to be legacy acts. I'm just saying that there's the evil corporations around them that sponsor them and put all the money and don't promote any new bands. And people just like what's familiar. It's also the same in movies. It's all the Marvel stuff and franchises and remakes. And there's this general idea, because it's all very bottom line decisions. These are all corporate decisions. And the decision is, why introduce something new when people will buy the old shit?
Corporate is AI.
Yeah, well, corporate is run a lot of world. corporations are actually getting their advice by AI programs now.
I hate I know you don't like sports, but it's like when they use fucking all these stats to fucking instead of from the gut now in baseball, it pisses me off, man. Stop
It will
using
inundate that too. It's going to inundate everything.
It
So we're not
sucks.
going to get, and what it will kill is the spark of human invention. That's the
Yes.
problem. The idea is that technology is supposed to enhance humans, not replace humans. That's just, to me, a basic concept. And it's like, did you guys see the film Megan? Actually, not a
Oh,
bad.
that movie is awesome. I saw the director's cut.
Yeah, Megan's a good film, and it touched upon this idea with her. There's that one scene where the guy goes, "Well, what's the point of her replacing parents? Isn't the idea
Yeah.
that parents not replace them?" And that's the thing. Like the idea is technology. Like, yeah, if they want to clean
But
up,
that's what TV did to latchkey kids. The parents that put them in front of the TV.
yeah.
Remember that
was
show on
just
HBO? What
grew
was
up
that
to
show
be
on
assholes.
HBO where the guy was raised on TV?
Yeah.
That was a great show.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and that show, that was all right because he got laid a bunch. But for the most part, I don't think it's, I think it's not moving culture forward. Progress is about moving us ahead, not replacing us. And it really, everyone makes the Skynet joke, but it is like Skynet. It is that deal with the devil, where we're going to be replacing ourselves. And it's like, what's the fucking end game here? What's the end game? Is the end game to have no new Beatles because we got the old Beatles that would come back and sing for us again and again? So
I would like to see AI replace Dip in a corn dog.
there's a couple acts on my top 11 here that I don't think it could ever replace. It'll try.
I know, man.
It'll try, but it'll
Well,
fail.
Charles will disagree with me on a lot of my acts on this list.
But
But,
that's what I worry about with AI. I don't worry about if they take Elvis and put him on different goofy songs. I worry about it taking our jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't make any money on any of these artists. I worry about what I have to worry about. Right now, I don't have to worry about it, but you never know.
There's
these kiosks.
We're all going to be threatened by it at some point.
Vincent Kavanaugh used to go to this club in Pasadena, and we saw like Jeff Tate there. We saw a couple acts together there. They had a restaurant right next to it where it had Flippy the robot that cooks burgers. Guess what? Flippy burned out, and they closed the restaurant because they didn't have money to flip burgers.
But that is another issue too. I mean, even if it didn't destroy all culture and humanity and employment as we know it, which it might, very likely actually, at very least, it's glitchy technology. You can't relate, you can't trust it. It's going to fuck up at some point, and it's going to fuck up in a way that's going to be a catastrophe, and people are going to die.
I can't see AI replacing your wit.
No, it might try, but yeah.
I can't see that. I can't see it replacing Charles's ego, and I can't see it replacing a fucking what's his name movie collection up there.
Or Sabotage shirt, it'll replace it with Metallica. It's more known.
AI doesn't have heart. AI, there's no way it's like I think Facebook is run by AI because they don't understand. Like, I guess one of my friends said about, a raccoon, she called it a coon. She can't comment on people's posts for 30 days because they don't know what they think. She's saying a racist tune, but she's also saying raccoon. It's this thing for raccoon. They call it a coon, but they don't understand that. That's where AI is going to fuck up.
Yeah, AI's can make some big mistakes. And it could be a point if they have, like, let's say AI is like running like surgery, like in machines. And
God, I just had surgery. That was scary as fuck.
Picture. Would you feel better if it was a human being or AI?
Human being, especially the doctor I had. That guy explained everything to me. An amazing guy.
There you go.
Yeah.
AI sucks. Fuck that computer shit. Come on, fuck it.
But
Let's stand up against it.
like on this other podcast I still listen to and love, they were talking about that shit, and I agree with them on that, what they said on that podcast, their last podcast. Fucking AI is gonna suck it up. You might like something, but there's gonna be a little difference that us old school people will hear in that AI rendition of a song. We're gonna hear the inflection like you heard it on Elvis. You're gonna hear that difference. But the new kids are not going to fucking care. They're just going to say, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's and then the quality drops a bit. That's the thing with everything. It's just like with digital recording. It's just like pop music nowadays. The quality drops like every decade. And we're part of an old guard that's going to remember when things didn't suck.
The perfect thing that I compare it to is watching this movie right here, watching The Irishman.
Oh, that movie's
and,
good. Yeah.
And seeing the first flashback of Robert De Niro with the de-aging effects. And you can just tell something's off. And you can tell, even though you're enjoying it, and it's like what you like. It's like watching an old Robert De Niro movie or an old Joe Pesci movie or so on and so forth. But you know something's not real, and you know something's not
the
what
thing
it
that is
actually
scary
is.
with that de-aging thing. You watch the movie Terminator Genesis.
Mm-hmm.
The Arnold Schwarzenegger AI young guy looked off.
Yeah,
it was off. And every film that they've used that to fix it, like Ant-Man, I think Douglas, Michael Douglas, looked like Michael Douglas. They've gotten better with that shit, and that's fucking scary as fuck.
Yeah, that's not AI.
No, but
it's similar technology.
Yeah,
it's similar
technology.
Yeah.
Did you see that Terminator Genesis, Charles?
No.
The Arnold Schwarzenegger
I lost
thing
track
was
of interest
horrible.
a long time.
Yeah, I've watched every Terminator movie. I'm a glutton for punishment, man. I watch.
Well, they started that.
Maybe that one's not as good as the first one.
No,
they started that shit with actually with Phantom Menace. I mean,
Phantom Menace, yeah.
No, not Phantom Menace. The last episode 3.
What they started?
Revenge of the
Did they
Sith.
start that with the one where they blew up? They got the plans to blow up the thing with fucking Princess Leia or something.
No, they started with Revenge of the Sith because they put the Emperor's face on an actual stunt guy and all
and
that.
And they had a CGI shark in it too. Yeah.
So that's not AI though. That's just special effects.
Hey, I
fake bullshit though. I don't like it. I don't think CGI Yoda's as good as the puppet. Give me real shit.
Did you guys did you guys ever watch Black Mirror? They have a new season with Selma Hayek and the girl from Schitt's Creek, where they're doing like you agree to this EULA on this like Streamberry. It's like Netflix, and they could take your life essence and put you on a screen. So it said Bad Joan or something, and it was this girl's life played out on Netflix, kind of. And she was like, "What the fuck?" And she was trying to destroy it, get rid of it. She lost her job, she lost her everything because you agree those EULAs. They could say, "Well, it's in the contract here. You didn't read it." It's like a huge book. It's like we're gonna get screwed over by technology, man.
Oh yeah,
well, that's
it's kind of already happening.
Yeah,
that was like the South Park where you agree to the iTunes
human
deal and you become
centipede.
the human centipede. Yeah.
We need to start reading the EULAs, man. Start reading those EULAs.
Yep.
One to grow on, but start reading those EULAs, man. But fuck, let's get to something else, man. Let's get to fucking up. What do you guys think about Bill Murray dating fucking Kellis?
Good for him.
Milkshake, man. I saw her open for Duran Duran. She was fucking horrible.
Good for him, though.
And you didn't expect that
from Kellis? But she had the milkshake, man. I thought she'd be cool.
You know, the
day before, they had.
It kind of makes sense. There was a Wu-Tang connection there. She sang on an old Dirty Bastard song, and the Wu-Tang, Jizza and RZA and Bill Murray were in Jim Jarmusch's Coffee and Cigarettes, where they had a scene together. Oh, wow. So there you go. So maybe
there's a new Wes Anderson movie that looks pretty cool.
It's great. Actually, I like that movie.
I love Wes Anderson, man. Fucking weird shit, man.
Yeah, his first couple films were
you don't like the Royal Tenenbaums?
Yeah, that's his first couple films.
I love them. Yeah. Or the fucking, what was that? The one where they were in a submarine?
Yeah, that's all right.
I like that one.
Yeah, it had its moments. I'd say Rushmore and the Royal Tenenbaums are his two best.
Yeah, Rushmore was awesome.
Yes, Bill Murray was really good in that.
I haven't seen a bad Bill Murray movie. Maybe that one where he's in the fucking army. What
On
was
the Razor's Edge.
Stripes?
the Razor's Edge? That
Yeah,
movie
he wasn't very
sucked.
good.
Oh,
Yeah, he can't
man.
just do straight drama. He can do like a dramedy or like a drama that has like an undercurrent of dark humor, but that was just too just
He
straight.
ain't Robin Williams, man.
Yeah, he's not one or Tom Hanks or like he was trying to do something like that, and it's just like doesn't work for you, Bill.
But like Tom Hanks went from fucking bachelor party to fucking
Yeah.
Philadelphia. It's
Yeah,
like
I think Bachelor Party still his best film though.
I agree.
Top that.
That
Yeah, top that.
and the Burbs. I love the fucking Burbs.
He's good
man.
about, and I like Joe versus Volcano. And
Oh, I love that too.
I liked his lighter touch. His stuff with Meg Ryan, the romantic
Turner and
comedy.
Hooch.
I don't like when he gets too heavy-handed.
I like Turner and Hooch too.
I haven't
Money
seen that in a
Pit.
while. I feel like that's a film I would probably
Money
like.
Pit. Fuck
Money Pit
yeah.
was a
Shelley
good film.
Long.
Splash. Yeah, it's a good one.
Splash. John
Candy
Candy
stole it.
throwing down the change,
Yeah.
looking under the.
Who was it? John Candy stole that film though. John Candy's the
Fuck
best.
yeah!
I love John Candy.
Fuck, I love John Candy. We should
Yeah.
do an episode like top 10 John Candy movies.
I will
man.
totally take part of that.
Fuck yeah.
I love John Candy. He said
All right,
he was
man.
a fucking national treasure, even though he's not American.
Yeah, I know he's Canadian, man. But
Yep.
all the best comedians are basically Canadian.
Yeah, it's cold all the time. What are they gonna do? They gotta make each other laugh.
Like shit, you got Rick Moranis.
There's
Either
nothing
make
to
each
do
other-
here but fucking it's a tundra and
Either
social.
make each other laugh or
Let's
make
make
great
each other
music, one
laugh.
of the two.
Fucking
Kids in the Hall.
Kids in the Hall rule.
Kids in the Hall's great. Yep.
The fucking
Michael
pig.
Myers, yeah.
And the flying pig.
Jim Carrey is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Jim
there's
Carrey.
yeah. All
Did
kinds.
you ever see the episode of Kids in the Hall where the guy was a banker and he had a pen? He said, "Can I use your pen?" He goes, "Here." He gives him his pen. He signs it, and all of a sudden the teller notices his pen is gone. So he runs out of the bank. He's chasing the guy. My pen, my
Yeah.
pen, my pen. And then he like grabs onto the text. That's my pen. And then he gives him his pen back. And then he goes back and you see it's attached to his head now.
Great, such a great show. Even the new ones weren't that bad too.
No,
when-
new ones are really fucking good. I love that.
I
shit.
love the one with the baby where he's really good at catching the babies. He catches them most of the time, not all the time, but he has a really good ratio for not dropping the babies.
Dude, those guys are just fucking like, oh man. I know Mark McKinney went to Saturday Night Live. That wasn't a good season.
As to me, SNL had its moments in the 70s and 80s, a little in the early 90s. After Chris Farley, it's all down the tubes for
Well,
me.
after Mike Myers too, man.
Oh, I
Dana
mean, yeah,
Carvey.
no, I would say that's actually the peak. In some ways, I think
Yeah.
those late 80s ones are a little more consistent than the 70s. The 70s had some great shit, but that when they had Phil Hartman, Mike Myers, Dana Carvey, they
Yeah.
were John Lovitz, like they were a fucking machine. Dennis
Fucking,
Miller,
what's it, the producer's name of fucking Saturday? Lauren Michaels. He
Lorne
said
Michaels.
that Phil Hartman was the glue of Saturday
Yeah,
Night
oh,
Live.
he was great. He was very underrated.
The
Him-
fucking the anal attentive fisherman.
Oh, yeah, he was great. He was great. You ever see this skit where he was Reagan? It was one of the
Yeah,
it was one of
He
the
did
best
Reagan
political-
all the time, man.
Yeah, he did Reagan like as like the persona of like the dopey old grandfather, but then
Yeah.
behind the scenes he's like all conniving and
No,
planning-
that was Randy Quaid.
No, it was Phil Hartman.
Randy Quaid did that too, where he is go, "Hi kids, how you doing?" And then he goes, "We have," and it was like the Untouchables, where he said, "We got people not pulling the," and he bangs the guy's head on the fucking.
Talk about a weird season. Not to get off, dude. That Randy Quaid season's weird. It had Anthony Michael Hall, Robert Downey Jr. It's a weird season. No one
Randy
like
Quaid
forget
wasn't
about it.
Billy Crystal on there too,
I no, he was the one before.
next-
Nice
Oh.
before it. Yeah.
where they
Yeah.
did the stuff where they stick the nails up their nose with Christopher.
Yeah,
Guest.
Christopher
when-
Guest. I hate when
When that
that
when Dick Ebersol ran the show, I think
Oh,
Lauren
yeah, it
Michaels
was
stepped
horrible.
away.
Yeah, same. Billy Crystal's when Rick Moranis was on, and Martin Short. No, Rick
Martin
Moranis
Sh-
wasn't on.
No,
He was Second City,
it was Martin
but-
Short.
but Martin Short, yeah, who was also from.
He
Second
did his
City.
Ed Grimley from SCTV, which is a great fucking comedy sketch show.
Yeah, that
Count
John Candy
Floyd.
started.
Yeah, oh, John Candy rules.
Yeah, well, obviously we all know our classic SNL.
Oh,
So,
fuck
yeah.
yeah. And fucking, if you guys haven't seen the Canadian SNL, it's just as good. It's called SCTV. Fucking Eugene Levy, American Pie guy, dad.
Captain O'Hara.
Yeah, Catherine O'Hara. You know, it's got just John Candy, fucking
That's
the
what
guy.
they did, the Great White North.
Yeah, Doug and
McKenzie
Bob
brothers.
McKenzie, man.
I love them. Strange Brew.
Oh,
Great.
dude, that is a fucking great fucking movie.
I love that. But that was one of my favorite movies as a kid growing up.
Oh, fucking, how do you get a beer? How do you get a mouse in a beer can?
You host when they do the steamroller. Steamroller.
Well, fucking where they do the Star Wars hockey scene.
Yeah.
I'm not your father. Oh my god.
Funny movie.
And they're drinking fucking, they're in the fucking ocean and they're fucking drinking air from beer bottles.
And they give the dog beer, and then he's like a super dog flying.
Here, Jose, is a square record. It's a fucking thing for a computer.
Great shit.
Fucking, oh, it was a great show. All right, man. Let's digress here, man. What do you guys think about David Ellison said, I've watched the quality of Megadeth diminish over the last 5 years, Charles?
Oh, really? How long has he been out of the band now?
1 year.
Like a year.
1 year? It was more than that. That was a couple years. When he gets caught spanking his meat on that
Like
video.
maybe a year and a half ago.
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not gonna argue with him about it. I mean, I thought the last album was good but forgettable. Are we talking about it right now?
Dystopia was
No.
better.
Yeah, but
that was pretty
a
good.
little more 5 years ago. I think that's what.
Yeah, Dystopia was almost.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
talking about all the
Dystopia
albums
was
they
almost
made for the
10
last
years
5
ago
years.
already.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Dystopia was pretty good, so
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's his opinion. He's bitter.
I don't
Dystopia
think
was
he had
awesome.
that
So
opinion
he's
if he
wrong on
wasn't
that one.
fired, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, of course. He's playing bars.
Oh yeah, no.
with a
If
knockoff
he wouldn't have gotten
Megadeth.
fired, he'd still be up Mustaine's ass.
Yeah, it's
Right.
always
Yes,
our
balls.
best
Yes,
work
balls.
yet.
Yes, balls.
The sick, the dying, and the whatever was our best one yet.
Oh,
I agree.
and the
I
sad
mean, I
part is
agree
if
with
he was
that.
on it, he'd believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that, but the
People
man's
believe their own
entitled to his
bullshit.
opinion. The man is totally entitled to his opinion, but yeah, he's upset because he was sent home for being a groomer. There you go.
The
Man, he
girl
was a
said she
preacher,
was
too.
18. No, that's
Yeah.
that's what I hate when. Just remember, preachers are human. They do sin, but there's a lot of bad preachers out there, man.
Is that the kids in the hall pen from the bank?
No.
You got Bruce McCullen's pen.
I was just gonna say. But what do you think about that, Edwin? About what David Ellison said?
It's got sour grapes. It's normal. Listen, I'm not one of these people. I'm somewhat ambivalent towards it. I mean, obviously, there's more behind the scenes between the Daves than we realize, so we can't really weigh in. Obviously, if they were tight and it was his boy, Mustaine would have forgave him. It was. I mean, technically, yeah, you could say it's grooming, but technically, she was legal. At the time that they did their thing, and she said it was consensual, so it wasn't like he was breaking it.
She said she was the one who instigated it.
Yeah, and she probably did. And so, I mean, the point is, yeah, it doesn't look great, but it's a fucking rock and roll band. And it's not really a reason to fire a guy, in my opinion. But at the same time,
especially when he says he's Christian, forgive the guy.
He wouldn't be the first hypocritical religious person.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I'm a hypocrite also sometimes. So there you go.
People have their own spin on religion. Yeah. They take what they want. Maybe in his mind, that's cool. It's Martin Luther stood up and said, "Hey, we should be able to bone women and love God." So maybe he thinks that he might have his own belief system. I'm not judging the guy. That's for him. I'm just saying that we don't know. Obviously, behind the scenes, these guys didn't get along because it was like Mustaine. It's like waiting for any fuck up. It's like, you're fired. Boom. That tells me that Mustaine didn't like him or thought he was a pain in the ass or he wanted too much money or I don't know all the stories. I know he has this manager that was always pushing to release stuff outside of Megadeth and stuff like that. And obviously there was some shit that we aren't privy to that I think there's more to why Mustaine fired him. I just think that was more of a pouncing of an opportunity. Like, oh, he's got bad press now because of this. This is the time to fire his fucking ass. So he did it. And, you know, I mean, I think he's a really good bassist. I can't say from listening to their albums in the past 30 years if, I mean, there's some really good albums he's odd on, and there's some bad albums he is on. So I don't know. I don't know if he really makes much of a difference. I'm not knocking him, but I think ultimately it's like Lemmy and Motorhead. Fucking Megadeth is Dave Mustaine. It's his fucking band.
Yeah.
So, you know, if he wants to fire the bassist, that's his fucking job. It's just like, you know, Bill Wyman and the fucking Rolling Stones, you know? It's just,
This just reminds me of Mustaine's like ill towards Metallica, but he did say some good things about Kirk Hammett lately, so that was pretty fucking cool.
well, he said he did a good job copying his
He
solo.
did a good job copying his goals. He didn't have
Of course, it had to be backhanded.
backhanded. But I'm just saying. But I'm just saying that now we have Mustaine with Metallica. Now we're gonna have fucking Elvis with Megadeth. How long is this gonna go on?
Well, I kind of feel about Meg. This is the thing. Now I have Dave's back on, you know, how he handled Junior. That's his prerogative. Whatever. It's his fucking band. If he wants to fire the bassist, fire the fucking bassist. What I have an issue with, though, is kind of like Paul McCartney and John Lennon. It's just like, on one hand, it's like you're always such a crybaby bitch about being in the shadow of Metallica, but you keep bringing it up. It's kind of like Sammy Hagar with Van Halen. Like, you keep bringing it up. Like, just stand on your own. Oh, big deal. Boo hoo hoo. You're just in the second biggest thrash band of all time. Oh, I'm sorry. You're not in the biggest. Considering that you were a fucking crazy maniac, drug addict, alcoholic in the 80s.
He's above Slayer.
You did pretty well. I think if we're talking the whole grand scheme of things, and I'm also talking record sales, I don't think Slayer's come close to Megadeth. I think Megadeth. No. I think the only reason why they were put up ahead of them in the big four was because touring wise, I think Slayer at that point was probably a bigger act because they were like,
yeah, they were
touring
wise. Slayer always was the bigger act than Megadeth.
Yeah, they were the bigger act.
To the farewell
for Metallica.
Yeah, but in terms of record sales, I don't think Megadeth, you know, outsold Slayer.
Yeah,
they were pretty big there for a bit in the early 90s.
I mean, the whole thing with Ellefson, though, I mean, it's all about headlines and press. That's the reason they brought him back in the first place. I mean, look at when it was 2010. What was about to happen? Big Four tour. Metallica is 3/4 original members or classic members. Slayer, it was the entire classic lineup. Anthrax, it was everybody but Dan Spitz.
Yep.
Megadeth, it was Mustaine. What's the odd one out?
And Mustaine keeps begging for a new big four, though.
Exactly. So that was kind of, I guarantee that had a lot to do with it. Was, oh, they're trying to get this big four tour together. 95% of the other three bands are classic members, and all that's in Megadeth is Mustaine. So I think that was like a big part of it, getting headlines. Hey, we don't want to be the ones that are kind of like the lame duck here on this tour. Get the headlines here, and then as soon as Ellefson starts getting them bad press and bad headlines, he's out the gate.
Yeah, I actually think you hit it, Joseph. It makes sense. It might have even been contractual. Like, maybe if they didn't have Dave, if they didn't have Junior, they might have been before Anthrax.
They would have been opening that show, I guarantee you. If it was just Mustaine, they would have been opening that show.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think that's it. And then, like I said, obviously, at any chance, as soon as that was done, it's like, oh, he fucked up. He jerked off to some teenage girl. Okay, you're out. I don't need you anymore.
And now look at him. They're opening for Five Finger Death Punch.
He was still mad about the fucking lawsuit that Dave Ellefson gave him earlier before he came back. Dave sued him. So he's still pissed off about that shit.
Yeah, they've never had a great relationship.
80s, 1988 Megadeth stuff albums are pretty damn good, though.
Oh, fuck yeah.
I'm sure that might come up later.
All these thrash guys are assholes, just like the Beatles. But let me tell you something. They made some great music there in the late 80s.
All right, man.
They might come up maybe on this.
Maybe a few might come up. Let's see.
Well, I think that we'll stop on the BS right now and we'll get to the main attraction. Charles, what are we doing?
Top 11 albums in 1988. Wonderful year in my life.
We'll talk about your life in 88 before you get to your list.
1988, of course, part of it I was in the 8th grade. Part of it I was a freshman. I was 14 years of age. And unlike some of these other years we've done, either have to look in retrospect or maybe I didn't remember that much at the time. I intimately remember every album on my list. A lot of these I still listen to from time to time today. So this was another easy one for me because again I listen to a lot of this stuff today. So just a wonderful time, man. You can't replace those years like that. Having a great time out fishing and camping and running the streets and being a hellion. So this is soundtrack of my youth stuff right here.
I can see you being a hellion. Ah!
Little
Oh God, man. Eddie, what were you doing in that 1988?
Eddie, I'm a little younger, so I was in elementary school towards the end. I was like, well, I mean, 80, I started off being 9, I ended 10. I was like in 4th grade, I think. But it was very important. It was more like not this year, 88 wasn't so important to me. To me, it was 89, because 89 is when I really started getting into music on my own. Like in 88, I was just listening to what my older brother listened to. You know, I had a brother who's 5 years older, and he was like very into heavy metal and hard rock. So I was like, I mean, in 88, like I was listening a lot of like 87 albums in 88. You know, I was always like a year behind. I was listening to like Dawkins' Back for the Attack and
Yeah.
Lost Boys soundtrack and shit like that.
Lost Boys soundtrack rules.
Yeah, they were my brother's CDs, so I borrowed those a lot.
Lou Graham.
Yeah, it's great shit. So a lot of these albums that we'll be discussing, I got into a few years later, or like the following year. Like I got into AC/DC the following year in 89, and then I got into Metallica like very late 89, early like 90s. So maybe if there is a Metallica album on this list, maybe it was an album I got a little bit after it was new, but before the Black Album came out. Like so this is like right before I really got into music in a big way. And then like the early 90s, you know, I'm going into junior high and high school, and then like, you know, floodgates are open. I become like full-fledged music rock and roll maniac. But 88's where it's kind of beginning. I might have got the Doors greatest hits. Maybe I think that was in 89 though. I don't think I bought any music until like 89, but I'm close. It's like on the horizon. And now looking back and hearing all these classic albums, I would say the two headlines are thrash and hip hop. To me, this is like, that's the big thing happening in 1988. Is there's a lot of classic thrash and hip hop albums. They're kind of the two dominant cool forms of music, in my opinion. So we'll see what Charles thinks. But to me, I look at this now and I just see a lot of classic, and I love a lot of old school hip hop. I don't like a lot of new shit, but I love late 80s, early to mid 90s hip hop. So
I agree with you on that, but I probably didn't pick any of that.
Oh, you didn't pick any, not even one?
Because I know you would.
Okay, yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of thrash and hip hop on my list, but there's some other shit too.
So
yeah.
Joseph, you were born after 1988, right?
Most definitely.
So you're retrospective here.
Correct. And I definitely agree with Eddie as far as I would say 90% of my list is thrash metal. There's one album that is definitely not, and I'm sure it's something that some people here might appreciate. I'm sure some people watching it might be like, ugh. But I know it'll definitely, the crowd that enjoys it will enjoy it, and I'm sure hopefully we can turn on some people to some stuff they may not hear about. I know there's some stuff on my list that I think is severely underrated. So I'm sure everyone else has some of those as well. So
it's awesome. I picked albums. I put myself back in the like way back machine. What was I listening to in 1988? That was the time when I was working at the famous In-N-Out Burger. I was getting turned on by some music by some friends at In-N-Out Burger. So some of these albums were because of those friends, maybe way up there or way below there. And some of those albums are stuff that I was into myself. So let's start with your number 11, Charles.
My number 11 was right on the cusp of being an honorable mention. but it's because I like a few more songs on it than on the one that didn't go honorable mention. And when we get honorable mentions, we'll get there. Eddie nailed it on the head. A lot of great hip hop albums out in 1988. And at number 11, I've got Eric B. and Rakim with Follow the Leader. Awesome hip hop album. And Eddie, what you think about Eric B. and Rakim?
I love it. I'm gonna say it now because this was one I was really upset that just missed my top 11. It is an honorary mention though. I wrote it as an honorary mention. It was called. There's a lot of great albums in '88. This is another great.
Yeah.
I got a lot of honorary mentions. Let's just say this.
I only put 6 or 7.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
Eric
same.
and Eric B. Rakim's Follow the Leader is one of my honorary mentions. Great second album. I'd probably give the debut a little bit an edge, but this part I would say their second best album. But you know, those first 4 albums they did, they're all fucking solid. Well, Kim is to me one of the greatest rappers of all time. And he was a big influence on my personal favorite rapper, which is Ghostface Killah from the Wu-Tang Clan. He always talks up Rakim, and he covered one of his songs. And yeah, this is a great album. I love the opening, you know, the title track. You got that badass bass line. Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
it's great.
Microphone Fiend is good too. Really good. Great. It's a really cool album. It just barely made my list though over another hip hop album, but I only really like one song in that album. Why I picked Eric B. and Rakim, Follow the Leader at 11. So on to Eddie's number 11.
Great choice. Okay, here, this is the one that beat that album out, and it was very close. But I know a few. I'm sure Joseph has this higher on his list, and it's great. Again, really great year. I feel bad that this didn't break my top 10, but it's close. But I love it. Although some thrash fans don't like this album, although I don't know. I these days I don't hear too many people say negative things about it. I am talking about Slayer, South of Heaven. I think it's a very underrated album. Yeah, I would put all their albums and EPs that came out before ahead of it, but I likewise put this ahead of everything came afterwards, even Seasons of the Abyss, which I do think is a great album, but I like this better. They kind of slow down the tempo on a few songs. They bring in a little bit of that Sabbath doom metal influence into the thrash, and it's just a dark. I love the production, the guitars. They do a Judas Priest cover. It's a great album, and to me, '80s Slayer is the best Slayer. They don't. If there's something about their songwriting I felt just dropped a lot after Seasons of the Abyss, but here they're still writing great songs, great riffs. They sounded great. It's just a badass album. Love the production. Love the album cover, and it's awesome. So there you go, Slayer, South of Heaven.
All right, before I get to you, Joseph, I got to see what Jerry gave me. He didn't number them. I'm just going to go from bottom to top. Halloween, Keeper of the Seven Keys, Part 2. Our review of Seven Keys Part 1 is coming out this Friday on Freeform Rock Podcast with Metal Mike. So check that out. So that's his number 11. And then Joseph, what's your 11? You guys have anything about Seven Keys Part 2?
It almost made one of my honorable mentions. I'm a casual Halloween fan. It's definitely in their classic period. As far as even casual fans go, it's okay.
Okay. All right. So what's your number 11, Joseph?
All right. So my number 11 is the first of the what I would call several massively underrated bands on my list, and this is a band where this album was the first album to feature a massively underrated singer who went on to form another band in the late '90s that I think is also massively underrated, and that is Sanctuary, Refuge Denied.
Yeah, I don't
know. Great 80s thrash album. First appearance of Warrell Dane on any album in would be '88, would be Refuge Denied. Great album. I mean, just so many great stuff. Soldiers of Steel, Battle Angels, the song Sanctuary, Ascension to Destiny. I mean, just great tracks on this album. A lot of people are a little iffy on Warrell's voice. I love his voice, and I think this is a great introduction to his voice. This is like this features a lot of the higher end of his voice, where a lot of the Nevermore stuff features his lower range. I couldn't recommend both of these albums. This is a 2-album set. It's
I need to
Refuge
check
United
that
and
out.
Into
I've
the
never
Mirror of
heard
Black.
them, dude.
It's an acquired taste, but I really would highly recommend. Great thrash band.
Nice.
And then of course World they would later form Nevermore in the 90s, another
Well,
vastly underrated band in my
like
opinion.
I said, the Halloween's The Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 1 is coming out this Friday. Freeform Rock Podcast. I never heard Halloween before that album. I liked that. Spoiler alert. So check that out. But my number 11 is I couldn't be Mark Alden Taylor if I didn't pick this band. Charles would be really disappointed in me. Like a Night Ranger, Man in Motion. I fucking love this album, man. Fucking Halfway to the Sun, the title track, Kiss Me Where It Hurts. I fucking love this album, man. It's fucking pop, but Jack, it just has that ear candy shit to me. And I fucking love it. I remember taking a bus from my In-N-Out Burger all the way to West Covina to the Tower Records that is no longer there. They tore down the whole building. I got that
You
album.
bought that album.
I bought that on cassette. And then we went to the Montclair Plaza, which is still here. But fucking, it was cool, man. I bought fucking Man in Motion. I fucking love that album. That was the last album with Jack Blades because the next album, Feeding Off the Mojo, was horrible. But fucking yeah, I still fucking I have the lyrics in my head. It must be a great album if it's in my head. It's not like fucking Ace
Oh
of Base.
yeah, it has to be great.
It has to
You
be
have the
great,
lyrics
right?
in your head. Yeah.
What's your number 10, Charles?
Sure as hell ain't Night Ranger.
I
My
love
number
Night
10
Ranger.
is my first. I don't have a heavy thrash listing on my list because I was going with stuff I really listened to at the time and tried to stay from like retrospect. And but I had this motherfucker right here, man. Eddie did a great review of it on his show, Anthrax, State of Euphoria.
Yeah, it's a
Number
great
10.
album.
I was on that
Love
episode.
Be All. Oh, and
Joseph
you was
was
on it,
that
Joseph.
episode.
Cool.
Yeah.
I
I've
love
heard every
Be All and
episode.
End All, Antisocial. Man, that
Eric
fucking album
hates
rules,
Antisocial, doesn't he?
Yeah, he didn't like that one, but he
Yeah.
liked everything else.
He did.
dude. I mean, it's a great fucking album, dude. I love all eras of Anthrax. So this was a great album, and dig it. Sorry, I forgot you were on it, Joseph. It was a while ago, buddy.
I was the sour grapes on that episode.
Use the sour grapes. Ooh, oh man.
Some of it.
Yeah.
You weren't like negative review.
Oh no, I like some of it. It's far from my favorite Anthrax album, but I like some of it.
Well, it's not my favorite either, but I did.
Yeah.
Oh,
did
my
like it a lot
favorite
in
is
88.
any John Bush era. I do like
Now it's dark is my favorite Anthrax song though.
Who?
Now it's dark.
Yeah,
That's from Joey, right?
Badass.
Fistful
That's
of
the
Metal.
album that we're talking about.
Fistful of Metal's my favorite.
No, I don't like
That's
Damn
a
it.
great album. So I
What's
love
your
that
number
album.
10, Edwin? Eddie?
My number 10 is here's a classic hip hop album. I love this album. It's great. The Great Adventures of Slick Rick. This is Slick Rick's debut. It's a fucking hip hop masterpiece. Another big influence in the Wu-Tang Clan, my favorite hip hop band. And it's just Slick Rick. He's the patch, the Lottie Dottie. And this has one of my favorite hip hop songs of all time. Mona Lisa is a great song. And Treat Her Like a Prostitute. That's the name of the first fucking track. It's Treat Her Like a Prostitute.
Damn.
Don't treat no girlie nice until you're sure of the scoop. And man, it ends. The last song is called Lick the Balls. It's a bad ass fucking album. It's versatile, it's gonzo, it's eclectic. Slick Rick, it's fucking, like very interesting cat. He was actually like British. He's like a British Jamaican guy that then came and moved to New York in his teens, and he was very pimptastic. A little kind of like the Brit. So if there's a bridge between Rick James and the Wu-Tang Clan, it's fucking Slick Rick. So there you go. And I love it. It's one of the great hip hop albums. And there's gonna be a couple more hip hop albums. At least when I'm looking at this. Oh well, one more. Anyway, but this is my second favorite hip hop album of 1988. The one that Charles picked is my third, and it just missed the list. But this is a great hip hop album. Have you listened to this one, Charles?
We might hear about it later.
Oh, there you go. All right.
He was an influence on Snoop too. That's why Snoop did Lottie Dottie.
Exactly.
It has a similar kind of flow too. So
that got slow.
Yeah, we might hear about that one later. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah, man. Whatever fucking podcast do you fucking hear about hip hop?
Do you even know who
and
Slick
metal?
Rick is?
I know who he is. I probably never heard him, but I know the name. I do know the name. But
I didn't even know Night Ranger was still releasing music in the late 80s.
Neither did the rest of
Man
the
in
country.
Motion rules. I'll be your man in motion. I still listen to shit today, man.
Let's just put it this way: they don't
know.
play any songs from that album live anymore.
They do. They do play one, but
they play "Secret of My Success."
I like that song.
Live.
It's better live. But if we get to Jerry's number 10, he picked Testament, New World Order. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Talking.
Testament, New Order, great album. That's on my honorable mentions. Didn't make my list, but it's on my honorable mentions.
Same here. I was actually surprised. I'll talk about it now. But yeah, it's on my honorable mentions. It got squeezed out. I was like, oh, this is a damn good year when fucking Testament. The New Order doesn't make the top 11. This was actually a very important thrash album for me too, because it was my first non-Metallica thrash album. Like I got into them, thrash with Metallica, and I bought the New Order and Practice What You Preach through Columbia House, like subsequent to that.
I love Columbia House. Come back.
And this one especially, the Practice What You Preach was kind of so, but the New Order I loved. I still say it's probably my fourth favorite Testament album, but it's not a go-to album, even though it does have awesome tracks like Disciples of the Watch and Trial by Fire. There's a lot of great songs. They do a decent cover of Aerosmith's Nobody's Fault. It's a great album. But I generally, if I'm going into 80s Testament, I usually listen to the first album, the debut. I also love Souls of Black, I think is better, and The Gathering. But this is probably my fourth favorite Testament album. It's a really great album. It's a thrash classic, but kind of like the Eric B. Rakim song album. It's like, wow, this is a really great year for thrash and hip hop, because you could have an album this great and not make the top 11. So, yeah. But good choice, Jared.
Joseph, any thoughts on that one?
Oh yeah, so I'll talk about it a little bit more when I get to my honorable mentions. But yeah, definitely made my honorable mentions. Great album. Okay. Definitely, probably in my top 5 Testament albums. Mine would probably be the same as Eddie's. I'd probably add Low into my top 5 as well. I think that's a really good album. So my number 10. So this is I think this is probably the only non-metal album on my top 11 list here. But this is one that I'm very passionate about, and this is definitely probably what many people would consider the final, or maybe not even the final. But this might be after the classic period for some people, but I consider it the final classic release of this artist. And a very unique fact about this album, and something that kind of grinds my gears to this day. If you buy the original CD pressing, it's all one track.
Oh, I know what album it is.
I love Sexy.
Prince, Love Sexy.
I knew you were gonna pick. I knew you were gonna pick
awesome
that because I saw a Prince comment by you this week, and I said I ain't picking that. I'm letting Joseph pick that. I knew you were gonna pick that.
Great Prince album. I definitely think this. I mean, I love the Batman soundtrack, but I think that's like little post classic Prince.
Freeform Rock podcast. Vincent Kavanaugh was on with me and Lee on that album. There you
go. This is like what I consider probably the last of like the classic run from Controversy through this.
He had good albums after that.
Oh, he did. He had some great albums after this, but like this is like the classic run for him. But I mean, so much great stuff. Alphabet Street, Glam Slam, Love Sexy, When Two Are in Love, I Wish You Heaven. I mean, just great album. Wish it wasn't all one track, but luckily we have the power of technology to have separated versions of these songs. But when I do listen to it, I listen to it all as an album. So I think it's a great album.
Fuck, what a loss,
go.
man.
Nice. And I might be talking about it later.
Right?
I
Well,
figured you might be,
I
Eddie.
knew
You
you
know I-
or Edwin would have spoke of it. I don't think Charles would have because he's a Michael Jackson fan.
Yeah.
Well, I love Prince too.
You do?
I do.
Okay,
Yes.
that's cool then. We should do a review. But
I just like MJ a hair better,
well,
but
that's fine.
Prince is great talent. I love. I'm a massive fan of Prince.
Then
So,
I get to my number 9 that nobody's fucking gonna pick. It's fucking Europe, Out of This World. I fucking love that. Keep on walking this road and I'll follow.
I hate
Fuck.
that song so
Fuck,
much.
I love the fucking harmonies on that whole fucking album.
I didn't
And-
even know they had an album then.
I don't know
Yeah.
about the album. I've never listened to the album, but they play Superstitious all the time on Hair Nation on Sirius
Dude.
XM. I hate that
You
song.
need to talk to fucking De La Rosa. He'll tell you how good fucking Out of This World is that, man. You know
Is
De La
You
Rosa,
sent me-
right?
You sent me something a while back.
Ruben
things-
De La Rosa. You talk to him.
Yeah, but yeah, I
You-
love Mark's devotion to butt rock. It's great. You really love it.
Right on.
This is the stuff I still listen to that. I have it on vinyl.
We know you do. We
I
know
have it
you
on-
do.
John Norum isn't on that album. John Norum is a
no.
fantastic.
Really?
Did you like the Don
God.
Dawkins solo album? John Norum was all on guitar on that.
Yeah, he's really good on
Oh.
that, actually.
John
Yeah, that's
Norum is
really
a
good
fucking
album.
bitching guitar. Everything Europe's done from 2004 is the best. The 80s stuff is good.
It's like
I-
Deep Purple, isn't it?
Yes.
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 No. But yes.
Ah, fuck.
You tell him, Charles.
All right. Listen to 2004 Europe. Start from the Dark. That album rules. We did a
Yeah.
review on that with me and Lee. But what's your number 9, Charles?
Well, I'm gonna throw one at you here. It's my favorite scab band in the whole wide world, playing your local rib shacks near you. LA Guns, the LA Guns debut album.
I knew Charles would pick this one.
Really? Are you picking
I
that
love
as
the
a
debut
joke? Or are you
album.
picking that
No.
as it is good?
Fucking Electric Gypsy, Sex Action.
It's raw.
Man, I know it is. Bitch is back. Fucking some great shit on there, dude.
Sex
My
Action
favorite
rules.
scab lineup of LA Guns with their
Scab
debut
lineup.
album.
You know, your favorite guy on there, Riley, did not play on that album.
That's why I said the scab lineup. But it's great. It is a great album. So
Ah. So is the
it's
next
just
album and the next album. So
not
even
just
the albums
not
of
quite,
Jizzy, even the albums of Jizzy Pearl were good.
just not quite good enough to be Guns N' Roses, but it was a good album.
Well, I have
Definitely.
Guns N'
It's
Roses
at the
made
bottom of my
music.
list.
But Adam,
Yeah.
what's your number 9?
My number 9 is one of my favorite bands. They released this album, and I got it like the following year, so it was still like a relatively new album when I got it, but it wasn't like brand new when I got it, which is AC/DC, Blow Up Your Video. Very
Ooh.
underrated. Now,
Yes.
yeah, hear me
Great
out.
album.
Horrible
dig
production,
it.
too much reverb. Brian's voice sounds a little shot. That being said, if you can get past that, you get past all the fucking reverb and Brian sounding a little shot. The lyrics are great. Their last time he wrote lyrics for an AC/DC album, really, I would say the songs. I prefer Fly and Flick, but sonically and overall, but songwriting wise, I think this is at that point their strongest set since For Those About to Rock We Salute You. The songwriting is really intelligent. The riffs are really good. There's a lot of different moods and shades. You got great songs like Nick of Time, Two's Up, and I just Kissing Dynamite. There's a lot of really great deep tracks on this album.
Oh, fuck yeah.
There's a song that I don't understand why they didn't release it, because I feel like it would have been a big hit in 1988. Rough Stuff. I feel like Rough Stuff with a bunch of sexy ladies in the video, like during the hair metal scene. Like I felt like that could have been a big hit, and they, for whatever weird reason, they didn't release it. And of course it's got Heat Seeker, and that's
All that
Right.
rules. Love Heat Seeker.
I played
Great
that last 2
song.
weeks.
Great
Some of my
song.
favorite AC/DC songs.
It's an album that grows on you the more. It does sound better on vinyl, you know. So if you have
I need to
some
get that on
issues
vinyl.
about sounds, it does sound better on vinyl. And This Means War, another great song. Love that song. It's a really cool album. Some Sin for Nothing. Lot of great stuff. And it's an underrated AC/DC album. And yeah, I dig it. I mean,
What do you
but
think about
some of
Simon
these
Wright's?
are- What's that?
What do you think about Simon Wright's drumming on it?
Okay, I'll say it. Simon Wright's no Phil Rudd, but he's better than Chris
No.
Slade. But I prefer him to Chris Slade. At least he sounds like a human being, and not like
I
a
like
fucking
Chris Slade.
drum.
I like the Razor's Edge.
The only time Chris Slade sounded half good was the Big Gun single. Rick
You didn't
Rubin
like The Firm?
sounded good. What?
You didn't
No,
like
The
The
Firm
Firm?
sucks, and they shouldn't suck. It's
Oh,
Jimmy
the
Page.
King's
I love
Horses?
Jimmy Page.
You don't like that song?
The Firm's like Ghost. I've tried to get into The Firm so much.
Fuck. Do
Tried.
you like Bad Company?
See, I've tried not to get into The Firm.
You like
I
Bad
tried to
Company?
because I am such. Jimmy Page is my favorite guitar. So
But do you
I'm
like
such-
Bad Company?
I'm a casual fan. I like the first
See,
two.
you're not a Paul Rogers fan, so that's why you can't.
Yeah,
get
I
into
like the
Firm.
first two albums, but I'm not like they're not like big go-to albums for me. But they're
Dude,
like
Paul
music.
Rogers is butter.
He's the butter.
His voice is butter, man.
I don't know. It's probably Jimmy Page. It's like after Led Zeppelin, you got the Death Wish 2 soundtrack and
Coverdale
Coverdale
Page.
Page. But
That's it.
But that's pretty
it.
much it.
Dude, I
And
love
Design
the
has its
I love the
moments,
two
it's not
Firm
great.
albums, man. The fucking Fretless Bass by Tony Franklin.
I hate fretless bass for the most
Oh,
Few
but he's the
exceptions.
only one that made it sound good.
part. It's all right in jazz, but I don't know, rock music, I don't like it. There's a few exceptions, like
Dave
Luke
Gilmore played a
Bass.
good one on
There's a few.
Wall.
Mm.
When he played it on Hey You.
I don't like. I'm not. I know this is like sacrilege. I don't like The Wall.
Ooh.
Doesn't everyone
Ouch.
know that about me? Doesn't everyone?
I
know?
like
The guy doesn't
Animals
like the-
better.
I was not aware.
I like Animals better.
Yeah, Animals is great.
Animals,
After that, the first Dave Gilmour solo album is kind of all right, and then that's it. I don't.
like David Gilmour solo,
Well, no, I don't.
I
except
like the first
except
one.
On an Island. I like On an Island.
That one's all right. I like it better than The Wall. but to me, Pink Floyd's the Piper of the Gates to Animals, and it's
I
all-
don't like anything with Sid.
I don't like
I
anything
love
before
Piper
metal.
the Gates.
Oh, I love the Sid stuff.
Oh, I
I
love
don't
this
like the
stuff
Sid
too.
stuff.
Piper of the Gates is probably my favorite one. Metal's probably close.
I love metal. I
Yeah,
got
metal.
that one in mind.
Metal is like the
Yeah.
first one that I really, really like.
One of these days.
Not
God
great.
damn.
So how did we
Uh,
start talking about Pink Floyd?
I
Maybe
don't know.
I don't know.
What
Fretless
The
Bass.
Firm.
Joseph,
Fretless
what?
Bass.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
what-
firm
what-
sucks. I tried to get
Yeah.
into them. I really wanted to like them, and every time I hear them, they're like,
Oh, I fucking love. It's just Paul Rogers' voice, man.
Yeah,
I'm a
but
huge Bad
his
Company
voice doesn't
solo
fit
Paul Rogers.
that kind of music.
It did.
He
Satisfaction.
sounds awful. He
Satisfaction.
sounds awful on
Guaranteed.
Radioactive.
Did you ever hear the Radioactive? Fucking amazing.
ah.
All right,
love
so what's Jerry's number 9?
Which you fucking asshole. This is Slayer, South of Heaven. What do you guys think about that?
And we covered it with
Yeah.
Eddie's.
South of Heaven. All right, man. So then I'll get
Hey,
get to
Jared.
your number 9.
Alrighty, so I will
Yes.
be the first person mentioning this illustrious band and album on our list.
Paul Rogers
I-
rules.
I like some Bad Company songs. He's not my favorite.
I don't like
vocalist.
the Queen one, but go ahead.
Okay.
Keep it
So an album that I think is good, very good, but not great, and certainly not as great as this band's first 3 albums, and that is And Justice for All.
Oh,
Love Blackened. I love the title track. I love One. I love Dyer's Eve. Shortest Straw and Harvester's Sorrow are good. The other 3 songs you can flush down the toilet. I cannot stand Eye of the Beholder. It's one of the worst Metallica songs ever written.
Which song?
Eye of the Beholder.
Tough.
It doesn't
I
work
love
for me.
Eye of the Beholder.
I think it's one of the worst Metallica songs ever written.
Ooh,
I
I'll
think
get to
Free
that
End-
later.
I think Freight Ends of Sanity just goes on too long, and
Oh,
To Live Is to Die is okay, but I mean, it's still a very, very good album. I mean, it like all
It
the
made your
songs I
list.
mentioned, I love. It made my list.
it
There's
made your
albums
list though.
on my honorable mentions that are very, very good, and this made my list over them. This I put this above Prince Love Section. I love that album. So I mean, it is definitely a step down from the first 3, and I think honestly, and I know this is showing my youth a little bit. I prefer the Black Album to this, but
I agree with you on that one.
it's definitely better than
I
anything that came after the
don't.
Black Album.
Yeah.
I do.
This is definitely better than anything they've done since, including Hardwired, which I love. But
Hardwire.
I do love this album. It's just a step down from the three that came before it.
That might be one of the few ones that might be on all of our lists. So I
Yeah,
probably.
it might
we'll
be.
talk about it later.
Might be.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then I get to my number 9.
Yes, I can't wait.
This band has started with they opened for the fucking Rolling Stones, and I saw them in the fucking Coliseum.
I know it is now.
Living Color, Vivid.
That's a good album.
That
Great album.
if you guys listen to any of their albums, they're all good.
I like
You
the
just
second
don't
one
get
best.
impressed, man.
The second one's
Stain,
pretty good.
Stain is great.
No, that's the third one. Time's
Time's Up. That's a good one
Time's
too.
Up, I think, is their best. But
Stain
Vivid's
is good
album.
too.
I had my brother had that. That was one of the CDs I used to swipe from him. I used to listen to that. They did that cover of the Talking Head song on it. Memories Can't Wait, and
plus they did
People was a
fucking
good song.
when they go, you could tear a building down, but you can't erase
The
the
letter
fucking
to the
soul in fucking Corey's vocals. It's like
yeah, it's a great singer, good band. I haven't
Mhm.
really listened to them in a while, so I don't know how well they aged, but I'll have to check them out. I do Call to Personality. God, that was such a great tune.
dude, there's so many great songs on that album, dude. Fucking
Glamour Boys.
Glamour Boy is fucking cool too.
Oh,
Jagger sings
I like that
I ain't
song.
no glamour boy, I'm fierce. But fucking Memory, the Landlord song is fucking great. And they have fucking great other songs on there. You take Glamour Boys off, Cult of Personality, the fucking Landlord, where you could tear a building down, but you can't erase the memories. They're fucking the way Corey sings that, it's just like it just grabs you. Fucking what a great underrated singer, Corey Glover, and he could still sing today, which is fucking amazing. So that's my number 9. Living Color, Vivid. What's your number 8, Charles?
Oh, and he was also in Platoon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was in that film. And let's pick up the Corn factor a little more on your list, Mark. You're letting me down right now. That wasn't too terrible of an album.
Yeah, that wasn't that
All right.
rock.
Yeah. No butt rock here. My number 8.
The next one.
I hope I'm not the only one that has this on mine. But I was a cool kid in '88, and all the cool kids had this motherfucker right here, man. Bobby Brown, Don't Be Cruel.
That's a good album. I like it.
Man, I still bump that shit, man.
Charles, that's your prerogative.
That's right,
I even
prerogative.
like his Ghostbusters 2 song, you know.
Every little step I take.
Oh
Brony.
God. Did you see the video with him doing a comedy with Mike Tyson?
No.
The dude who hosts Let's Make a Deal. What's his name?
Oh,
Wayne Brady.
Wayne Brady,
Brady.
Mike Tyson, Bobby Brown, and another guy. They were doing every little step you take, and Bobby Brown came in to do the rap. I'll send you that Laugh or Die video, dude. It's fucking amazing.
Is
I can't
Wayne
believe you haven't
Brady
seen
gonna
that.
have to slap a bitch?
It's funny.
I bet it is. But yeah, I fucking love the Bobby Brown album, man. And I don't know about after that too much. I guess the Ghostbusters song went that bad.
Oh, I
it
love
kind of
that
fell
song.
off with me. But I loved New Edition. I had Ralph Tresvant stuff, and Johnny Gill, and all that. And it's my prerogative to put this at number 8. Bobby
I like
Brown,
Boys to
man.
Men.
The king of R&B per Whitney Houston.
I like Boys to Men and Belle Biv DeVoe.
Only her.
Sue me. You know, I love all
Bobby
those groups
Brown.
that came out of fucking New Edition. Belle Biv DeVoe.
The New Jack Swing.
Yeah,
Yeah, fuck yeah.
right.
A Boys
Love
to
it.
Men. You know, fuck yeah. Shit, the guys can sing harmony. I fucking love that shit. Eddie, what's your number 9?
Well, this is one
8. We're on 8.
8.
It's been brought up before, Joseph, and he was on the episode of the Rock Over podcast when we talked about this album. Here's Anthrax, State of Euphoria. I love this album. If you want to hear me gush
Yes.
about it, listen to that episode because I
Sure.
gushed a lot about it on that episode. And yeah, I love it all. Even Antisocial, I think is great. I love the whole goddamn album.
Eric
And
hated that one.
It's something that kind of it's grown on me. It's a grower. It's one of those albums that grew on me. And I might have overrated it a little bit that episode. Joseph remembers I declared it my favorite Anthrax album. I was a little caught up in the moment. I would put I'd put maybe it's my second favorite. I would I put Spreading the Disease ahead of it.
Oh,
I think
I was
that's
hoping for a Bush album.
I would not put. Even though I don't mind the Bush stuff, I prefer him singing in Armored Saint.
Oh, I get the
prefer
best of
Joey
both worlds for me.
Belladonna singing Anthrax, so I prefer
Yeah.
Belladonna. I really love Persistence of Time.
I
think
do
it's-
too.
Yeah, but State of Euphoria is probably. Yeah, it's probably my second favorite Anthrax album. So there you go. Not bad. After Spreading the Disease, I think it's great. It's a fun thrash album. And I love the bright yellow album cover, and it's just it's when thrash are like party thrash, like it doesn't all have to be grim and dark all the time. So I like me some party thrash. So there you go.
So Jerry's number 8 is Living Color Vivid. So we already talked about that, Jerry. So you know what that's about. So Joseph, what's your number 8?
All right, now comes the time of the show where we scare away Mark and all of the butt rock lovers, and I talk about Death. Death, Leprosy. Love this album. Definitely the dark and gloomy side of thrash and death metal as compared to Eddie's party thrash. This is definitely still the era when Death was much more of a thrash band than they were a progressive death band that they would become in the 90s with a lot of their 90s albums. And I think this is still a little bit sort of primordial for them, not fully formed into what they would later be, but I still love that early Death stuff. I mean, I think Chuck is a really, really underrated songwriter, musician, and even vocalist. I do like his vocals. As far as death metal vocals go, he's one that I can tolerate. But yeah, Leprosy has so many great songs. I mean, Born Dead, Left to Die, Pull the Plug, Open Casket, great stuff on here. Dark, heavy, brutal stuff. Definitely origins of death metal, but still leaning thrash. Doesn't quite have the all the hallmarks of death metal quite yet, but I really, really enjoy this album, and I know Mark would never listen to it in his entire life. So
it's great. I really like that album too. I like Death a lot. I think they're probably my favorite death band for the most
100%. Yeah,
not so into them. I like some early Morbid Angel, and I love Death, but I like everything Death did. I like how they became more progressive.
They did. Oh yeah, their 90s stuff is really, really intricate and really good.
Yeah, but yeah, really great stuff. And out of Tampa, Florida, I believe, which is where I'm located right now.
There you go.
Yeah. Good choice, Joseph.
So then I get to my number 8, and Charles loves this band. U2.
All right. Yes.
Rattle and Hum.
Oh,
I love Desire. I love fucking this whole the best fucking live track ever. The blue sky on this fucking God Part 2. I don't believe in him. Don't believe in hate. Don't believe in
YouTube made BB King whiter.
Yeah.
Dude, Love Comes to Town rules.
Had a reverse effect. He didn't make
When love comes to town, I'm gonna jump this train. When love comes to town, I'm gonna catch that plane.
Under a Blood Red Sky was the only good thing you two ever did.
Ah, fuck off. That's my fucking pick. I was listening
best
to that
live
shit.
track ever.
Like, dude, it was half studio, Angel of Harlem, and then they had the Blue Sky Live. God damn, that was a great album. You liked them on the Joshua Tree. That was a Joshua Tree tour, man.
Yeah, would have been better.
I could reach behind me and pick 30 live albums that have better live tracks than anything on that album.
Ooh, the Blue Sky. Oh my god!
On it. Did you hear the studio tracks, Joseph? They're horrible.
Oh yeah, oh no, they're awful. Awful. The
I
album.
Hear the studio tracks. I said, go back and play those fucking hits.
Desire, Angel of Harlem, God Part 2.
Oh,
I love all that. It's
boy, God bless you, Mark. You make us.
But he did like the next album, Octung Babies.
I did. I do like that album, but not like Rattle and Hum. So I'm not a hater.
I know you're not. That's why I had to bring that up.
That's why. I have Under Blood Red Sky on vinyl. I love that album, but just not much other than that.
I'm mainly a hater. Yeah,
he's mainly a hater. But I don't hate Oasis. That's not fair.
What do you mean
I
it's
like
not
a lot
fair?
of
I mean,
Oasis. You like a lot of U2, but you still say you're a hater.
Liam don't like you too.
Who cares? You like Noel
I
better.
like them up to.
That's okay. Liam doesn't like Noel either.
I like them up to Joshua Tree. Yeah,
That's
true.
what was fucking rattled
So,
on. Was that
whatever
tour.
Liam likes, Noel doesn't. Vice versa.
All right,
I've heard that record and it sucks. I'm
let's
sorry,
get to
but
your
it's
number
not
7.
corny enough yet.
Let's get to your
I'm
number
waiting for these
7,
corns
Charles.
to come out for you, Mark.
Charles, what's your number
Let me
7?
down.
What's your number 7, Charles?
My number 7, all-time hip hop classic. God damn, I'm saying it. Public Enemy. It takes a nation of millions to hold us back.
That's a good one.
Fight the power alone. No,
Fight the power on that. What are you talking about?
It's a good one.
You mean
It's
Bring
like
the
all time.
Noise?
Oh yeah, you're right. I'm tired.
Fight Power's on the next
Bring
one.
the noise.
Yeah.
Bring the noise.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Which
It's 4
Anthrax did.
Term to
parts.
the edge of panic.
Yeah, that's it.
With Anthrax. It wasn't too bad either. I love it.
Yeah.
I like it better with Anthrax actually.
Yeah, I do too.
It's just, Louder Than the Bombs, a good song.
Yeah.
Fuck, man, it's fucking great hip hop album, even though I thought Fight the Power.
That's all right.
It's still Public
Enemy.
What's your number 7? Edwin, Eddie?
Well, we might be talking about that one later.
Yeah, I made a boo-boo.
It's all right. I forgive you. Hey, you put it on your list, so that's pretty dope right there. And you knew loud.
Yeah, I hope so.
It's my number 7. No one brought this up yet.
Man.
Here we go. Number 7. Danzig's debut. Self-titled. Fucking awesome.
It's amazing.
I'm shocked if I'm the only person that brings this up.
Barely missed my list.
Not me.
God,
Just
Danzig,
missed it.
it's one of the greatest fucking rock and roll records of all time.
I'm with Metal Bike. Fuck Danzig.
Fucking Mother, and it's still the best version, the original on it. Fucking Mother, Twist of Cain, She Rides. So many fucking great songs on this album. The whole thing. My favorite's the second album. But this is my second favorite Danzig album. I think it's awesome. I'm a huge Misfits fan. I'm a huge Sam Hain fan, and I love the first 4 Danzig albums. I think are all great. Kind of loses me after that a bit, but man, especially, and this is when Rick Rubin was still producing good. I love how he was producing Danzig.
I think Wildflowers was his last good
Enemy.
album.
Yeah,
like he produced the album Charles was just talking about. Like that shows you.
But I think
he produced my number 7 as well.
The great produced album he did was with Tom Petty with Wildflowers, and he quit.
He was good up until maybe the mid '90s. Like I like Ballbreaker's production. Some people hate it.
I love Ballbreaker.
I like Ballbreaker.
But that was kind of the last one. After that, he started to go down the tubes. But man, in the late '80s, Rick Rubin was a motherfucker. I love how he produced albums.
Beastie Boys.
Yeah, and this album, you could hear his AC/DC influence. Rick Rubin loved AC/DC, obviously. Glenn did too. You got Chuck Biscuits, amazing fucking drummer. I love the production. I love the starkness. It's just like, it's where punk and metal, kind of meet, and I love it. And, kind of foreshadows a lot of what would happen with grunge and the alternative rock scene, in my opinion. A very, I think, underrated album in the sense that I don't think enough people talk about its importance in terms of bridging metal and punk. And it's awesome. It's one of my favorite rock and roll records of all time. Danzig with Danzig. There you go.
Nice.
Might hear about it later.
Twist of Cain is still one of my all-time favorite album openers.
Such a badass tune.
I'm just with Metal Mike. I don't like him. And then we get to Jerry's number, what, 7? David Lee Roth, Skyscraper. This is on my honorable mention. I agree with the Jerry. It's a good album. Do you guys think anything about David Lee Roth, Skyscraper, or is it coming up later?
I like it's not. It didn't even make my honorary mentions, but I do like it. I like it. I think it's a solid album.
I have it on vinyl, so I mean I paid for it
too.
on vinyl, so we'll put it that way. I like it. Not on my honorable mentions either.
It has some really good tracks, and it's a grower. It's grown on me. It's a drop off in the first one, but
I agree.
It's better in the late one too.
I started like, oh God no, God,
it's a little too keyboardy.
Yeah, it's sandwiched between two great David Lee Roth solo albums for me. It's kind of the lame duck between uh Little Ain't Enough and Eat 'Em and Smile. So
Yeah, I remember listening to the Bob Coburn special debuting Little Ain't Enough on KLOS out here. It's pretty cool. And I bought that album and I do like that album. But
alrighty.
Good
Shit,
So
choice.
my
man.
number
Good choice.
You're
my number 7.
Yep.
Alrighty. So my number 7 was already mentioned by Mr. Eddie Cannistraci, and it is also produced by Rick Rubin on the Def Jam label, and that is Slayer, South of Heaven. Great album. I definitely think it is. I think it is. It's kind of the underplayed album of the first 5, especially when it's kind of sandwiched between Raining Blood and Seasons in the Abyss, which everyone kind of holds up as two of the better ones. I mean, I prefer the first 2 albums, honestly. But South of Heaven's still great. I mean, the title track, Silent Scream, Behind the Crooked Cross, Mandatory Suicide. The cover of Descendant Aggressor is great. But yeah, I think this is a really, really great album. I don't think Slayer did anything wrong between 83 and 90. And after that, I could not give a crap about Slayer after Seasons in the Abyss. But I think that run between 83 and 90 was one of the best runs from any thrash band.
All right,
Right
man.
on.
Then I get to my number 7, which Charles Trainer already picked. LA Guns,
Oh.
LA Guns.
Yeah.
They're higher on my list because I love them. I love Tracy. I love Phil. That whole album is just fucking raw. It's rawer than fucking Appetite is more produced than that first LA Guns album. Seriously, there's more production value on Appetite than there is on LA Guns debut album. That kind of sucks. So I think those bands are on par with each other if they'd ever get together and make new music together.
Yeah, not
Fucking-
quite, but yeah.
I
No.
think they're on par. I think they have better
No, not
producers,
really.
man. Because those guys went on and produced Tesla. Part of those people produced the first Tesla album. So that's my LA Guns. LA Guns. Gets your number 6, Charles.
My number 6. This guy was a little pissed off at the time, and I thought it made some great music. Little dude named Keith Richards. Album called Talk Is Cheap.
Ooh.
Fucking love that album, dude.
Good album. Good album.
Take it so hard, you don't move me. Man, oh hell yeah. And then and it was after that they made Steel Wheels, right?
Still, I like Steel Wheels better.
I don't know.
I go with the Keith one, actually.
Yeah, I think Talk Sheep is better.
Yeah, I
by
think
hair,
Talk
but
Sheep's good. Yeah.
it's a great fucking album. He had a kick-ass band. Check out the deluxe edition. It's got a lot more tracks on it. Keith was on fire.
A lot of stuff on that. It's good. Good choice.
Keith was on fire on this album, I thought. That's my favorite Rolling Stone. An awesome album. So.
What's your number 6, Edwin? Eddie?
Well, Joseph mentioned this before. You knew it was coming at some point. Prince, Love Sexy.
Yeah.
Love this album. Always love
I
it.
knew you guys would pick that.
I did a YouTube video about it, actually. Did you check that out?
Yep.
Yep.
So I knew you guys would pick it.
Yeah, and also this is an honorary mention, but I'm going to mention it now because it's connected. It didn't come out in 1988, but the Black Album was Prince's legendary unreleased Black Album was recorded and almost released in 1988, and then he held it back, and this is the album he replaced it with. And this whole video that I did kind of discusses that, so if you want to check that out. But I love both, but I would give Love Sexy the edge. I think Love Sexy is a little better. It's a little more progressive.
I think it has a better concept to it. I think the Black Album's a little all over the place.
It's good. It's a good funky album though.
I love the Black Album.
I think they work well together. They should definitely release them as a kind of double set because I feel it's like the yin and the yang. You know, it's like you got the dark, funky ghetto shit with the Black Album, and then Love Sexy kind of transcends and takes you elsewhere. It's an amazing album. There was a time period where I thought Love Sexy might be his greatest album. I don't think that anymore. I have a couple I would put above it, but I'd put like Dirty Mind, Purple Rain, Parade, Sign of the Times, maybe all above it. But
I mean, just what a period for him, though. I mean, just the stuff he was putting out and the stuff he wasn't putting out. I mean, like Black Album and then
all those
the
great
original
B-sides.
Crystal Ball and the
Yeah.
B-sides.
Yeah, Camille, all that stuff.
Camille,
Yeah,
the-
amazing stuff.
and then being able to put out Sign of the Times. It's such a great album.
Yeah, it's all amazing stuff. I would go even as far. I consider the Batman album part of the classic. So I'd go all the way from Dirty Mind to Batman. To me, that
Vincent Kavanaugh was on a Freeform Rock podcast episode on that Batman soundtrack.
I feel like the only reason why people don't bring up Batman is just because it's Batman. You know what I mean? If
I love that album.
Batman, but yet you had songs like The Future and Lemon Crush and Scandalous and
Electric Chair is one of my favorite Prince songs.
I feel like that would be considered a classic era Prince album. So I love that, and that's actually the album.
If not for Bat Dance.
Yeah, I mean it's fun.
I like Bat Dance, man. It's pretty cool.
But yeah, I
think because it's more the video.
It's fine. Hey, I love it. Hey, I had a poster of Vicky Vale in my room. Yeah, that was a very.
Why wouldn't you have a picture of Kim Basinger?
Why wouldn't you? Why would
you?
A 10-year-old boy want a poster of Kim Basinger?
God,
but
9.5 weeks, man.
I didn't watch that yet. That was like maybe 3 years later. Thank you, HBO.
All right, let's get to Jerry's. Number 6?
Yes,
it's Robert Plant, Now and Zen. I know none of you guys picked that album, so you picked Now and Zen. I like that album. It's in my honorable mention, so I'll just mention it now. Robert Plant, Now and Zen. I like how he used the little Led Zeppelin riffage at the end. He was playing tribute to them on one of the songs on there. I'm fucking fucked up, so I don't know. So let's get to your number 6, Joseph.
All righty. So my number 6, no one's mentioned yet, and it is the heaviest album ever written about the singer's grandmother, and that is King Diamond's Them. Great album. Really just classic King Diamond stuff here. Concept album, the grandma character, Welcome Home, Invisible Guest, Broken Spell, Them, Twilight Symphony. Just some great stuff on here. King's in his element here. Still has a lot of the classic bands. Still Mickey D and Andy LaRocque. And who was he? This would have been right after Denner and Sherman left the King Diamond band. So this would have been right around the turnover period with some of the members, but I think this is still hardcore classic King Diamond stuff here. Great album.
It's awesome. The reason why I wouldn't put it is because I wasn't listening to it then.
Yeah, so, mostly all these albums I was listening to it at this time.
Yeah, me and Joseph went with retrospective, and you two went with
what we're listening to.
Yeah,
at this time.
I guess it makes sense. Maybe I don't know. I feel like it's such a great year. You should be talking about what you're into now from it, because it's
all these albums
produces great music now.
I actually listen to all these albums still.
Yeah,
so
okay. Well, yeah, you're still representing the Night Ranger.
I'm still representing Night Ranger Europe.
And you're also bumps to the Bobby Brown.
Okay, I like Bobby Brown too. But then
every now and then I'm kind of fired up.
I get to my number 6, man. It's fucking Kicks. Blow My Fuse. Hey, you got nothing to lose. Blow my fuse. Fuck yeah, fucking don't close your eyes.
Eddie, be careful. Don't say that about Kicks.
Don't close your eyes. I can Ring Around Rosie. There's not a bad song on that fucking album. That song is just party, fucking rock, fucking smoke some weed, drink some beer, party album. Kicks, Blow My Fuse. Fucking rules. And Don't Close My Eyes isn't a fucking ballad. It's a fucking about suicide. Get that?
It's a ballad, Mark.
It's a suicide ballad, though. It's
a ballad.
It's not Sticky Sweet. How about that?
Yeah, I got you said. It's like
that ain't a ballad.
About suicide.
It's not Sticky Sweet. It's like a ballad,
Sticky
but
Sweet's
it's
not a ballad.
Actually, we can talk about Sticky Sweet's not a ballad.
So sticky. Yeah,
that's about
that song. It sucks.
Oh God.
Then we get to your number 5, Charles.
Well, Eddie mentioned it earlier, and you don't like it, Mark, so it means it must be good. Danzig's debut album.
Right on.
Twisted Cane, She Rides, Mother. Man, dude, this fucking just hard rock greatness, man. Come on, dude. Love it. Fucking love it.
Metal
Metal
Mike don't
Mike, I
like
don't
it
know what's wrong.
either.
Don't you like
I
Jim
don't
Morrison?
care.
I don't get
But
like
Metal
what-
Mike don't like him either. So why am I the one picked on about it?
Well, no, I'm just saying
you're on
you
Because
the
like,
Metal
call,
Mike's
Mark.
not on this show.
but
Yeah.
you like
I'm
the
just
Doors.
saying, I
I'm
have the same
surprised,
opinion
and you
as-
like hard rock and like AC/DC.
I
So
don't
why
like
you a
Danzig. The
guy-
music was slow and boring to me.
but oh, I can't wait till your next one's coming. I know the corn's coming, man. I know it.
Corn.
The
Oh,
buttered popcorn,
I don't like corn.
the
dude.
cheese. I know the cheese is
Well,
coming.
you're gonna
It's
get
coming.
some cheese. Of course, you're gonna get some cheese.
Yeah,
It's Mark.
Danzig is not cheese at all.
Well, it's not something I like. And well-revered podcaster Metal Mike from the Plug Podcast agrees with me. So
He
But,
praises you for that.
no, he agrees that he hates
Oh.
Danzig.
Well, I mean,
I just don't
that's
get
fine.
it. It's no problem
we
with
can't
that,
all be
man.
perfect.
So what's
Yeah,
your number
we all have
5,
our issues.
Edwin Eddie?
Top 5. One that no one has mentioned yet, although we talked about this band earlier. And actually, this is one of the rare Rock Overview podcasts where me and Eric didn't have a guest, and it ended up being longer. Actually, our episodes are longer when we don't have guests. The guests rein us in. We talked for hours about this album and how much we love it. This is another one that's kind of an underdog, another thrash underdog that I love. It's awesome. Megadeth's, so far so good. ... So what? Awesome fucking album. Awesome album. It's wonky and fucked up, but that's kind of one of the things I love about it. It's all druggy and it's got worse production than Blow Up Your Video. It's like you listen to this and go, God, Blow Up Your Video sounded better. But still, the top thrash album has probably the wonky, which I didn't even pick yet. This is the second top thrash album, has an even wonkier production. It was a great year for wonky productions, but this is great. I don't like that cover of the Sex Pistols song. I think that's kind of shitty. Everything else is awesome on this album, especially this original mix, and it has my favorite all-time Megadeth song, which is In My Hour of Darkness, which I think is their greatest song. I love that song. I just love the druggy, mean vibe throughout this album. It's just everything about it. I love from the opening notes, and it's just a sludgy, dark, mean, fucked up, wrong sounding thrash album before everything got streamlined. Like, that's the thing. And by the time you get, like, nowadays when older bands, even though some of them do great albums, the thrash, the album covers, the music, it all sounds like very formulaic and perfect and streamlined, where this is where it was still like a new form of music, kind of like the hip hop, where they're figuring it out. Like they're figuring out what this kind of music sounds like. And this is an album that sounds like that. And it's inventive and it's exciting and it's raw. And I love it. And God damn it, it's number 5. There you go.
All right, we get to Jerry's
In
number
my
5,
honorable mentions.
which he picked the Traveling Wilburys Volume 1. That's in my honorable mentions. So I like that album. I like End of the Line. I like all the fucking songs on there. Best Bob Dylan album to me when he blends with Tom Petty is amazing. I never heard somebody who could blend with Bob Dylan before.
Well,
Tom Petty can.
It's like him, so that makes
But
sense.
he doesn't have that,
Yeah, he's a little more.
He's not as nasally.
fine.
He's not as nasally. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was amazing. I'm so sad I missed that tour where they were doing Alone and Together, where Bob Dylan would do his solo set and Tom Petty and Heartbreakers would open for him, and then they'd be his backing band. That would have been a fucking cool tour to see. So fucking that's his number 5, and then you get to your number 5, Joseph.
Alrighty, so my number 5, as Mark has already mentioned, is the butt rock classic Kicks Blow My Fuse. Love it.
Joseph picked it, so maybe it's not butt rock.
It's not
It's
butt
not.
rock.
It's
I
not.
bet Jeff Beers likes it. Come on.
Oh, Jeff Beersley.
Well, of course he does.
But
Yeah, of course.
Jeff Beers does like butt rock.
Blow My Fuse. It's probably I'd probably say my 3rd favorite Kicks album. Great album though, like Mark said, so many great songs. right from the beginning. Red Light, Green Light, TNT, great opening track. Get It While It's Hot, No Ring Around Rosie, the title track.
Party album, man.
Cold Blood, yeah, definitely party album. I mean, Kix is a party band. I mean, when you go see Kix, you just can't help but have a good time. When you see Kix live, they are one of the most fun bands to see live, and especially because I know that this will warm up to Eddie's heart. They play small venues. That's what they do. I mean,
I like
Kix
that.
plays small venues.
And
I saw
retiring.
literally, yeah, retiring. I'm seeing their last show, Meriwether Post Pavilion. They sold it out in 20 minutes. I saw Kix 2 years ago at an ambulance hall. So like literally a fire station's social hall. I saw Kix, and it was one of the best shows I've ever seen. I mean, it was a fantastic show, great time. Everybody's having an amazing time. One of the biggest party bands you'll ever see live. But just a great album. I mean, and you can hear it. I mean, this is probably the closest they got to capturing their kind of vibe on an album. They were always notorious for never getting the studio part right. They always had some kind of complaint with the production or how they were captured in the studio. I think this is the closest that they ever came. Even though it's not my favorite Kix album, I prefer the first one and Midnight Dynamite to this album. But I still think this is a great album. Hot Wire is great as well. Yeah. But yeah, no, Kix blow my fuse.
Their last album is amazing too.
Yeah. Rock Your Face Off was really good.
Oh fuck yeah, Rock Your Face Off rules.
Since Joseph likes them, and Joseph is like one of the most metal people I know. He's definitely one of the most metal people here right now.
I agree.
Wait till you hear my top 4.
Yeah, I can imagine. You already are. You were like the top metal guy as soon as you were here with a Sabotage shirt. I'm gonna listen to Kix out of respect to Joseph, and he's got great music taste, so I'm gonna check them
out. Thanks. I've been telling you to listen to Kix for years.
I needed Joseph to push it over the edge.
Thanks. Exactly.
Mark and Joseph both like him. How about we'll say that? That's like makes it undeniable.
Jerry does love that album right there.
I would listen to the first album.
Jerry too. Well, the 3 of you love it. I got it.
Jerry doesn't like Midnight Dynamite.
First album first. Okay.
Hey,
I would not necessarily first. But it's like it was 81, so it was like pre all of that sort of stuff.
I didn't even know they went back that far.
Oh yeah, they were formed in the late 70s.
He didn't get your Midnight Dynamite remaster, Charles.
Didn't he?
No.
No.
I'll send it again. But yeah, no, this is very just like classic rock, just really kind of stripped down classic rock.
It's just like AC/DC, like
I wouldn't talk it up that much. I
wouldn't. They have the AC/DC. They're just raw. They're just
don't set his expectations too high. I love the first album. The first album.
Are they as good as Crocus?
Yes,
I would say so.
Okay. I'll keep my expectations on a Crocus level.
I'd put it up there with Headhunter, like the first Kix album. I'd put it up there with Headhunter as like a really good, just like straight ahead rock album.
I would start for Blow My Fuse. That's just my thing. But I do love Midnight Dynamite, and a remastered version you did. Oof. I did. It was way better. Remixed. But then we get to my number 5.
Yes, come on.
Listened to back then, I love it. Like a shot of pleasure is what I got for you. Rhythm of Love. Like in Scorpion, Savage Amusement.
Oh, you're letting me down.
I fucking love this album, man.
That's
the fucking album pumps, man. Just pumped by fucking 12-inch speakers back then, man. The Rhythm of Love. You fucking
Are you being honest? Are you being honest with your list? Are you?
I love Savage Amusement, man.
Well, we do have top 4 coming. So
yeah, we got the top 4.
Hold out, Charles. I'm sure there's some good stuff.
Yeah.
That's my number 5, Savage Amusement. This is what I was listening to back then, man. I was fucking 17, 18 at this time. So fucking Charles, what's your number 4?
My number 4, you can almost call it a companion piece to my number 1. But maybe, I guess. Well, I gave away my number 1, I guess, if I said it. But, oh well. It is early in the morning, as we said. But I love this fucking album. And I do bump this right alongside Bobby Brown. As Eazy-E does it.
Oh, that's a good album.
What a fucking album.
Boys. I know what number 1 is now.
Yeah.
Now you know
Yep.
what my number one would
I
be. But
don't.
Boys in the Hood, cool. See, Mark doesn't.
I know
That's cool.
that album, dude. I listen to that album all the time. Dude. The boys in the hood are always hard. You pimpin' shit.
Easy
What's in
does
your
it.
car? Go nothing allowed to
Fucking,
be legit. Don't
we want easy.
cause I ain't
I
say
mean,
shit, you know. Fuck yeah, I know that
fucking
album.
great, man. It's a great fucking
Roll into my
great
six
album.
foe. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
great,
know the
great
fucking album,
man.
dude. I'm not as dense as you think I am, Charles.
I didn't say you were, but you don't know what my number one is.
No, I don't. Probably gonna be fucking something around Easy.
Slightly dense, if you can't pick that one up, but that's okay.
Well, maybe when I hear it, I go, shit, I should have thought of that.
Yeah.
Eddie,
You will, trust me.
Eddie, what's your number 4?
This was brought up by Joseph. It's my number 4, and it's my top thrash album of '88, and I'm giving it to Metallica. Justice for All
Nice.
was my first Metallica album. That's not the reason. Oh, sorry, some chick making dates with. I'll talk to her later. Anyway, this is important. I got to talk about Metallica now, my boys. Anyway,
You ain't like Scribble.
yeah, the Metallica. What does he go off to do it? I will when I'm
No,
done.
he's had a bitch for the last like weeks and he hasn't talked to us. So go
Oh,
ahead.
He's one of those guys. I ain't like that. That's why I'm divorced, because I'm not a guy like
He's gonna go fuck off.
that. Justice for All. It's a masterpiece. Listen, the first 3 albums are better, but you know what's that? Yeah, it's still fucking awesome. And Blackened's one of the most ass-kicking songs ever. And the title track, I like. It's not one of my favorite tracks on it, but I do like "Eye of the Beholder." I love "Shortest Straw." That song's fucking badass.
Fuck yeah.
One.
One.
That's the song that got me into Metallica. A kid that only was listening to hard rock, and then I saw One. It blew my mind. All I can say is it would be like what a preteen, like hearing Led Zeppelin "Stairway to Heaven" maybe in like 1973 or 74 would have been like.
Yeah.
It just blew my mind, and it's a masterpiece. And it gets a little wonky towards the end, Edge of Sanity, all that stuff, but I still like it. I like when the music was kind of finding itself. Like Metallica wasn't all locked in the box yet. I don't mind that you don't hear the bass, even though I love bass, but it has a quality to it. I actually thought.
Could you tell there was no bass because the drums are reverberating?
Yeah,
so
I do.
much.
Well, I was a bass player as a
Yeah.
teenager, so I knew. I didn't know when I first heard it. This was before I was too young. I wasn't playing bass yet. I knew it sounded weird. It was my first thrash album. The funny thing is, I only knew thrash albums from the T-shirts. I mean, Ian Wadley saying this. We had a similar trajectory where he associated it with Bad Kids. Like, oh, those are the bad kids
Me
wear
too.
thrash metal. And my brother didn't listen to thrash. He was a hair metal guy. So that was more like the good kids listen to hair metal, the bad kids listen to thrash. So I didn't really, so I just associated it from the T-shirts. I just knew the T-shirts looked kind of scary, and it's what the scumbags listen to. I should have known that the scumbags had better taste in music. And better people too. But anyway, so they had when I heard it, a friend of mine, one of these scumbags, he is shop class, he gave me Injustice for All and said, check it out. So because I heard One and liked One. Now all I can say is when I listened to it, all I thought was, this sounds weird. This is not what I thought thrash was going to sound like at all. It's funny in retrospect because it's a weird sounding album. It's not what every thrash album sounds like. But I was intrigued. I was intrigued enough to get Master of Puppets, and then I was like, oh yeah, okay, this is kind of what I thought thrash might sound like. And suddenly I was hooked. It was like I needed Injustice for All to get me to Master, and then Master got me really into thrash, and then that opened the floodgates. But going back to this, I still love it. I think it's great. Sounds better on vinyl, just like Blow Up Your Video. You hear a little more of the low end, and it's awesome. It's it's a progressive thrash album. And it's there's Metallica's legacy to me was firmly entrenched just from the first 4 albums alone. I do like the Black Album. I like some of their stuff later. I love the last album, and I like the Hardwired, but to me they never topped the first 4 albums in my opinion. But yeah, there you go. Injustice for All.
And Jerry agrees with you. That's his number 4. So
Right
you
on,
just talked
Terry.
about it. So then we get to yours, Joseph.
Alrighty, so this is the only one that I do not have a physical copy of sitting in front of me because for some reason this CD is a bitch to find online for not an insanely inordinate price. And this is a very underrated thrash band, in my opinion, who not a lot of people know about, but we're actually in the news lately. They are getting back together for a reunion tour. Unfortunately, not with the classic lineup that appeared on this album, but I think half of that classic lineup. And that is Forbidden with Forbidden Evil. Great album. I mean, just Chalice of Blood, Through Eyes of Glass, the title track, Feel No Pain. Just some great, great thrash that I feel like I would almost recommend this as sort of like if you're just not, if you don't really know much thrash and you really want something to kind of get into, the vocals are very accessible. It's heavy, but not like pummelingly heavy that people might get scared off by it. I think it's a really great album. I think it will be a really, really good gateway for anyone looking to get into thrash that maybe just knows like the big four and really wants to get into some deeper thrash bands.
Yeah. I think my number 4 is what Charles has probably been waiting for the whole fucking night. Maybe. It might be one of the ones he's been waiting for me to pick. Bon Jovi, New Jersey.
There it is. There we go.
Come on, man.
I
Fucking
know.
album
Come on
rules.
now. We're getting there. Finally.
Bon Jovi, New Jersey rules, dude.
You were born to be my baby.
Fuck
Oh,
yeah.
I know you like that shit. Blood on blood.
Blood on
You
blood.
love it, don't you?
Charles,
yeah.
these
Yeah.
5 words, I swear to you.
Hey, I like that song better than Bed of Roses, though.
Oh,
Really, I love Bed of Roses too.
Oh,
I fucking love this album, dude. I was just fucking blowing this album out of my fucking Walkman or fucking whatever I had to fucking blow this out of my car. I had a Sony pull-out cassette player at this time. I think I was jamming out in that cassette player. Fucking, I love fucking Bon Jovi, New Jersey. Then we get to your number
Bad
3,
Medicine.
Charles. That's
Yeah.
right. There they film with
Fuck
little
yeah.
cameras. Yeah, the film.
Now,
Long
yeah,
Beach
now
Arena. That video was filmed at. Thank you.
now you're being real. That's what I'm talking about. Well, my number 3 should be very predictable.
Was
coming
it Europe
from me.
real? Oh, there you
Yeah, I'll give you that one.
go. All right.
The superior band to the SCAP lineup, LA Guns, had a little double EP out this year. Guns N' Roses, GNR Lies.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. We did a little review on the Rock All Over You podcast on that album, and that
That
was
is
a lot
true.
of fun.
Yeah, he's great on
Uh,
it.
Yeah. I love it. I don't know which side I like better, man. I love the live side, which is faux live, fake live, but I love fake live. And I even do like One in a Million, even though it's, I think lyrically, I don't know why he went there other than to get controversy. And he should have put it on the Appetite box set. My opinion. I don't think
I
I'm
agree.
alone on that.
I agree.
I
Own
agree.
it. Put that shit back out. But I loved it then, love it now, and listen to it quarterly.
Dude.
So there you go.
If you ever want to do a Chinese Democracy remix on Freeform, I'm ready.
Awesome album.
Yeah.
I will never do Chinese Democracy on the Rock or Oak podcast, but we did do GNR Lies, and it's great, and it didn't make my list. Sorry, Charles.
Yeah.
But
Hey, it's all right.
You like the version of You're Crazy better on there than Appetite. I disagree with you.
I
remember
love that
I
version.
stand by
It's
that.
so
I don't like the
stand by
acoustic
Oh, I
version.
love
Oh,
it.
it's
version.
great.
I love the
Blues and
Appetite version.
Just the bare
I
knuckleness
think
of
the
it. Oh, it's
live
great.
one has more of a feel to it.
You
It
see, that
does.
proves to you I listen to your show. I know.
Just that down and dirty riff on the intro of You're
Love it.
Crazy on GNR Lies. It's just so great.
Some of Axel's best singing. I don't know. I mean, part of me kind of thinks of that as 2 EPs. That's another reason that I really didn't include it, because half of it wasn't, was actually 488. But it counts. I mean, and my brother had that and I borrowed it from him. But okay, so but yeah, good choice, Charles, even though I didn't pick it. And
You're number 3.
oh, okay. No one picked this yet. Joseph might like this because he's metal. But anyway, I really love this album. I think it's underrated. It has a cult following. Number 3, and this is actually my highest ranking, I guess you would say, metal related album on this list, and that is Ozzy Osbourne, No Rest for the Wicked.
That's on my honorable mentions.
Mine as well.
Love this album. This is
Yeah.
my second favorite Ozzy album after Diary of a Madman.
I
To me,
agree with
wow.
you.
I think
Zach
it's
is
better than his
amazing.
first album. I think it's more consistent than Blizzard.
Yes.
And Zach's amazing on it. I mean, to me, Diary is the top one. I like Diary better than probably everything Ozzy's done, except for the first 6 Sabbath.
I
You can't
agree.
stop the first 6 Sabbath albums. But then after the first 6 albums, I'd say Diary, and then this one, No Rest for the Wicked.
And then Blizzard 3.
What's that?
Blizzard 3.
Yeah, Blizzard's my third
And
favorite.
then Bark at the Moon. You know.
Yep,
That's the way I
about
got
where
that.
I'm at. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then that's about where I'm at. And
Nice.
Ultimate Sin, and then probably No More Tears, and then I don't fuck with the stuff after that.
Oh,
Same.
I like Osmosis.
I like Perry Mason. but
Same. Yep.
That's
I like
the
some Black
only thing I
Rain.
like on that.
I like Perry Mason, and I'm a sucker for C on the other side. So
Yeah, to me, it's like a Perry Mason maxi single.
Yeah.
I like Black Rain. I like Black Rain. was a good album.
I tried because I love Ozzy. Really, it's kind of like Ghost and The Firm. tried
I
to
understand.
get
it.
into post osmosis Ozzy.
When he said Ghost.
Yeah, I just can't get into it. I can't get into it. I didn't even really like Black Sabbath 13. I just
It was okay.
yeah,
No,
it's
it wasn't.
okay.
no, it
Is it
was.
Should
entertaining?
the Black Sabbath reunion after
It's
30 years of
terrible.
Ozzy be just okay?
It was
You know?
okay. It wasn't
It's
bad.
terrible.
It was bad.
It's bad.
I
by
like
Black
some
Sabbath.
songs off
It
there.
had no soul. It had
Yeah,
no.
I
it-
agree with that because he was auto-tuned. You know,
I did
agree.
not like. Yeah, that's the Ozzy gets very auto-tune and all that. But there was a time in the late
There was a
80s
time.
where he
There was a
kicked
time.
ass.
Even
This
Ultimate
album,
Sin was
No
Rest
awesome,
for the
man.
Wicked, Crazy Babies, one of the most
Crazy
awesome
Babies.
rock
Oh,
Yeah.
fuck yeah.
Miracle
Yeah.
Man.
Fire in the
Beautiful Man,
Sky.
Play Those Rules.
Fire in the Sky.
Fire in the Sky, my favorite song on the
Mhm.
album. That fucking
Mine
song's
too.
Great song.
Bloodbath in Paradise.
Yeah.
Tattooed Dancer.
So every fucking track.
I got that tape for $2 at Kmart. It was fucking awesome.
I love the album cover. I love the vibe. You know, it's
Yeah.
very just this is why I call it just straight up metal. You know, it's not hair metal. I mean, yeah, his hair was a little poofy, but it's not hair metal. It's not thrash. It's just straight up metal. You know, and it's a great album. You know, Zach's fucking killing it. And it's awesome. And it's an album that I've just grown to love more and more over the years. And it's definitely if we're talking to straight up metal albums, my favorite metal album in 1988. I love No Rest for the Wicked.
And
All
it
right.
blows away patient number 9.
I
Oh,
like Patient Number
I
9.
tried to
But it
listen to
does.
that.
It does. It does. Ordinary Man's horrible.
Yeah, that's even worse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like Patient Number 9. I like that album. Lots of different guitarists on there. But Jerry's number 3 was Queensryche Operation Mindcrime.
Mhm.
No comment.
No comment on me either. So then what's your number 3, Joseph?
Alrighty, so my number 3 is a band that nobody's ever heard of. I think they're one of my favorite underrated thrash bands. They're a great European thrash band named Coroner. Really, really good run of albums from the late 80s into the early 90s. This is an album called Punishment for Decadence. Love this album. It's great. It's experimental. It's progressive thrash. So it kind of gets me where I live on both ends. I love progressive metal. I love thrash metal. It really gets in the grooves there for me. Love this album. Love the run they went on. This album, the one before it, R.I.P. is great. Mental Vortex after this, No More Color. Just great run of albums there. So some great stuff on here. Mass Jackal, Skeleton on Your Shoulder, Shadow of a Lost Dream. Just some really, really good experimental progressive thrash music. Really, really recommend this album to anyone who loves progressive metal, thrash metal. Just a great, great album.
And then
Cool.
I get to my number 3, which Charles has been waiting for probably the whole night. The next 2 he'll probably be okay with, but this is probably the last one he's gonna fucking do. I was gonna pick Van Halen, OU812, baby.
Wait, I'm sorry. Van Halen put out an album in 1988. Am I hearing that right? I'm sorry. I think
1,
Mark. I think you're breaking
2,
up. Mark, I think you're
baby.
breaking up.
Yeah,
The ultimate butt rock album.
his internet's going out.
Oh
Come
yeah, I think
on,
your internet.
baby, finish what you started.
You meant Van Hagar.
I'm
That's what you meant.
incomplete. Fuck, I love that album, man. Still love it to this day.
Yeah.
I fucking listen to Cabo Wabo, Mine Oh Mine. Fucking love fucking this album. I'm never gonna say I don't. To all you Sammy Hagar fans out there, Mooger Fooger, this is for you, brother.
Did you say motherfucker?
No, Mooger Fooger.
Is that like Sammy
Yeah.
Hagar stuff?
He loves
No, it's
Sammy
a
Hagar.
dude.
It's a dude.
we met in Nashville. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the Mooger
Okay.
Fooger.
You had to
He will-
be there. You had to be in
He's
Nashville.
gonna be on an
Yeah.
episode of Freeform coming up pretty soon.
Hey,
He
listen,
was
I love
he was
the fact
he was
that
the reason that
Mark
Aaron
loves what he
Camaro
loves.
got to miss out on most of Keel Fest.
Hey, I like
Yeah.
I like Black and Blue in the gay ballad on that album. So there you go. They're two good songs in my opinion. The rest is shit, but those two songs are good.
Listen to the sheer poetry. How do I know when it's love? I can't tell you, but
But it lasts forever. It's fucking simple.
It's
Do
a
you
pretty
like
song.
My Girl? My Girl is simple lyrics.
Pretty
What the
song.
fuck
There's
is
a
wrong?
difference between
The
simple lyrics
Temptations
and stupid
Van.
lyrics.
That
I'll say
wasn't
this.
stupid.
I'll say this for Sammy Hagar. He's better when he's simple. Yeah, I mean, if we look at those songs where he tries to be deep. Oh my God, where he tries to be like Bono and sings about the world, and
The sad
got
part is
Muhammad in the East and Jesus in the West, or whatever.
I love that song.
I forgot about
Christ,
that
what's a
lyric.
man? It's mine, oh mine. I fucking love that song.
Oh,
to singing about love, Sammy, because that's all you can.
Oh, Charles,
Yeah,
where
I'm
did we
just-
go wrong?
I'm
Where
just
did we
being
go?
I
honest.
don't know.
Charles is waiting for that album. But
I knew it'd be there.
what's your number 2,
I have a
Charles?
suspicion.
I know there's got to be one more I predicted on Mark's list, but we'll get
Probably
there, I'm
not.
sure. My number 2, everybody's mentioned it, I think, so far, except maybe Mark. And Justice for All, Metallica. You want to talk about a life-changing event? Was when I saw the one video in it, and I was like, "Oh Lord, shit like Van Hagar sucks. Poison sucks.
Fuck.
Thank you for freeing me from all the garbage. Metallica, thank you. I finally knew what metal was because I was just playing sports, watching wrestling, doing that kind of shit, and whatever was on the radio or MTV. That's pretty much what I knew at the time, and that changed my life right there. People say might say Nirvana changed the world. No, to me, Metallica 1 was what changed everything for me. So I've always been appreciative of it, and I love the whole fucking album. Even the crappy songs, they're whatever they would be, I still love them. So it's probably heart songs kind of thing, but I just love it. So easily number 2, Metallica and Justice for All.
Nice.
So what's your number 2, Eddie Edwin?
Well, this is one that Charles mentioned earlier, and I think it's the greatest hip hop album in 1988, in my opinion. Obviously, Charles thinks this other one is, which I do like, and we will talk about. I mean, obviously, I like it a lot. I think it's a little overrated compared to this one, in my opinion. That's all I'll say. But I get it. I get why everyone talks about this other album. But that being said, Public Enemy, It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back, not only does it have one of the fucking coolest titles of all time, it's my second favorite Public Enemy album. Actually, Fear would be my third. My favorite's 91, The Enemy Strikes Back, which is going to be the subject of a future upcoming Rock All Over You podcast right there. And
Now they're beating us to the hip hop, Charles. What the fuck?
yeah. Well, we did voice, check your head if you count that. And so Public Enemy, It Takes a Nation. It's amazing. Even though I do love that Anthrax version, I like this original version better. I love the hip hop, straight up funky, Bring the Noise. Got Cole limping with fucking Flavor Flav Cold Liquid Flavor,
Yeah.
amazing. I was Flavor Flav for Halloween once. Couldn't get away with that anymore. I'm glad those pictures aren't digital. That's all I'm gonna say. Different time. It was a different time. It was total respect because I loved Flavor, and I was so into Public Enemy. They were like one of my favorite. They got kind of like Metallica. What Charles was saying, like, and for me, they were the gateway to thrash. Public Enemy was the gateway to hip hop. It was. I heard Fear first. I got into them in 1990, Fear of a Black Planet, and then I went back and got this album. So I didn't hear this when it first came out. Plus, I remember hearing this version of Bring the Noise was on the Less Than Zero soundtrack, which I had a cassette of, which was a great soundtrack. Also had
Fuck yeah.
J's Going Back to Cali, another great song. It was pretty much Public Enemy and then LL Cool J right on their ass were kind of like what got me really into hip hop. And when I heard Public Enemy, it was just like, wow, hip hop could be like heavy. It's not like just like dance shit. This could be like heavy shit. This is why like they crossed over to like a lot of thrash fans and stuff, because it was heavy, intense music. And it kind of also just opened the door. I say also around the same time period, got the Batman soundtrack, Prince. This was when I was like, when I was a little kid, like a lot of people, I had like, we had a copy of Thriller in the house. My mom played a lot of R&B and dance music. So it wasn't like I didn't listen to black music at all. But, that was kind of like, this was the first kind of, I say like my black music, like the first time I got into it, that it wasn't like my parents listening to it, which was Public Enemy, Prince, LL Cool J, Janet Jackson, Rhythm Nation, this whole like late 80s period. That was kind of like my generation. It opened my mind up where I was suddenly not just some white kid in the suburbs listening to rock music all the time. So it's a very important album. It's just every track's fucking awesome on it. And you got Night of the Living Bassheads. I love just so many, Louder and Bomb, so many fucking great tracks. It's like, even if you don't like hip hop, this is an album that you can listen to and get into. So definitely big, very, I felt bad that was number 2. That's how much I love this album. I was like, God damn it, it's number 2, but it's a fucking strong number 2. Very strong, black and strong number 2. There you go.
All right. Jerry's number 2 is Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, Iron Maiden, which is on my also list because I wasn't listening to that much back then. My friend Tim Newbold was. If you're watching, hey Tim, we're seeing Night Ranger and Metallica coming up. Well, Metallica and Night Ranger coming up soon. But then we get to your number 2, Joseph.
Alrighty, so number 2 is my favorite thrash album of 1988. Another band that it's kind of sad to see the state they're in currently, as far as a lot of lineup changes recently. A lot of original members have been leaving. It's down to just the singer and the guitar player, and it's sad to see. But my favorite thrash album of 1988, Violence, Eternal Nightmare. Great album. It's sad to see what they've become as far as members leaving and just they can't keep it together with the classic lineup. But just this album, I mean, it's relentless. Just such a great, heavy album. I mean, the title track, Eternal Nightmare, Serial Killer, Phobophobia, Calling in Corn, or Bodies on Bodies, Kill on Command. What a freaking album. Just so relentlessly heavy, and just this album will just pummel you. And it's just, if you just want to just take out your aggression and listen to a heavy ass album, Violence, Eternal Nightmare, one of the best thrash albums ever released.
Right on.
And then I go to an album that everybody's talked about, Metallica, and Justice for All is my number 2. Fucking love that album. I got into them with Kill 'Em All because my friend Scott Travato from In and Out put that in my car, played that, and I got, oh man, I need more Metallica. And I saw the one video and went and bought that CD too. And then I went back and got like fucking Ride Lightning and Master. So this fucking this album was my number 2 Metallica album, but it's my number 2 of that year. It fucking rules. Justice for All. So then we get to your number 1, Charles.
My number 1, which everybody else seems to know, but Mark, I'm sure the people watching, it was connected to my number 4. He happened to be in the group. NWA, Straight Outta Compton.
Yeah, I know that album. That album rules.
My favorite hip hop album of all time.
Remember, I wanted to do an episode of that.
I did. You chickened out.
No, because everybody else voted us out.
No, I don't. Yeah, but They
That's
don't
fine. We
they
could
don't
do
run
it.
our show. We
We
do.
could do
Not them.
NWA straight out of Compton whenever, man. I'm down for that shit.
It's my favorite hip hop album of all time.
I agree with you.
So influential on. I was a big fan of Death Row Records. You know, Dre's gone on to be just incredible. I think Eddie, do you think it's a little overrated?
I think it's a little overrated. I mean, it's a great album. Don't get me wrong. And I mean, the title track's amazing. I'm a huge Ice Cube fan. I actually like some of his solo stuff a little. Like I like The Predator. I think
Oh,
is a
good
stronger album than Straight Out Compton.
Yeah.
Straight Out Compton's great. Don't get me wrong. It's just I just think if you're talking song by song throughout the whole album, I think about half of it's not quite as stellar as the other half. Whereas like those first like 4 Public Enemy albums, a couple LO, first 3 Tribe Called Quest albums, and I think Ice Cube's The Predator, I think are all I would put a little ahead of it. But it's still great, don't get me wrong. I just,
Yeah.
it's all
We
right.
were
And also Ice-T, I think Ice-T is like OG Original Gangster. I think that's a stronger album than Straight Out Compton too. And but
I guess you had to. Well, you were there, but you were alive. But you know, it was
yeah, I did
just
not
hit.
know about
Dude,
NWA.
Fuck the Police was
Yeah.
a great song, just
I-
the bump, dude.
I understand. I mean,
You know?
in a lot of ways, NWA, it's Straight Out Compton is, and it makes sense that you dig it, Charles, because you love Guns N' Roses. It's essentially the Appetite for Destruction of hip hop. You know,
Yeah.
it just drops, and they have
Dude,
that bad boy.
I'm sitting there telling my friend to fucking mute "Fuck the Police" as we go by a police car because I didn't want to get pulled over. I fucking love that CD, but I said, mute it, there's a cop. Because they would pull you over for playing that fucking song back then. Like,
They
fuck.
might today.
Yeah,
No,
they might
wouldn't.
today. I don't know. Or a
Yeah,
cop killer,
nah.
maybe cop killer. No.
You know, you got to find a cop first of all. Hell, they're nowhere to be found anymore. So I don't know.
I don't know.
But it's just to me. I guess you had to live it. Yeah, I definitely knew it at the time, and
Yeah.
I definitely listened to that from time to time, even today. So I loved all the NWA albums. So the Straight Outta Compton's easily my number 1 for that year.
What's your number 1, Eddie? Edwin?
All right. My number 1 is an album that no one mentioned. And now this is actually, for the most part, I was staying like in thrash and hip hop. But here we go with a band that I guess people would call alternative rock, but I feel that they are a act unto themselves with their own very unique sound. And it is a band that Mark and I have discussed before, and I know you know this album. And it is one of my favorite albums of all time. And it's an album that beat all these other albums. So how awesome is it? I think Mark knows what it's going to be. It's Sonic Youth, Daydream Nation.
Yep.
I
I
think
knew you were gonna pick that one.
yeah, it's
Great album.
one of my favorite albums of all time. It's a masterpiece. I think it's a fucking sonic rock master. That's why I consider Sonic Youth sonic rock. That's how I would describe them. They just got their own sound. It's vaguely progressive, but it's like, you know, has punk influences, punk to it. It's probably, I would say it's my second favorite Sonic Youth album. My favorite's the one right before it, Sister, but this is a close second. It's amazing. It's a game changer. I got into them a couple of years later in the early 90s with Goo, but this was like the album I went back and listened to, and I loved it even more than Goo. I had a cassette. I remember buying a cassette for this for $10, and it, like a lot of these albums, it further opened my mind. The way that Public Enemy and Metallica opened my mind to music, to other kinds of music, and Prince. Well, Sonic Youth likewise. It was Sonic Youth that kind of prepared me for, I guess you could say, grunge and Nirvana, and then a little bit after that, I got into some indie rock like Pavement and stuff like that. And it was like Sonic Youth kind of got me. Also, like I would get into years later, like the Velvet Underground and stuff like that. And it's all, you know, Sonic Youth was kind of the important band that really helped open my mind. And I do think it's possible to, like, if you like stuff like Rush and things, I think you could get into not some of their earlier kind of rawer stuff, but from this album on, from Daydream Nation, I think into like a lot of their 2000 stuff, Sonic Youth, especially if you like jam music and experimental
really
stuff, like Yeah, I definitely think a lot of rock fans could get into them if they gave them a chance. They also had like 3 singers, which I always like. I like bands. It's like Kiss of the Beatles or Fleetwood Mac. I like bands where there's different people singing, you know. And Kim Gordon's great. She was one of the vocalists and bassists. But yeah, and every song's awesome on it. Yeah, Teenage Riot, Silver Rocket, The Sprawl. It's a Candle. Hey Joni, so many great songs. Got great, one of the greatest productions ever. Atmospheric, probing, dark, mystical, futuristic, and ancient at the same time. It's fucking Daydream Nation, and it's foreshadowing. It's kind of like Megadeth. Sonic Youth was kind of singing about our world now. I feel then, you know, about this dystopian society that we live in, where you know you don't know what's real and what's fake, and we're all like in a daydream, you know. So a very poignant album as well. So there you go. My favorite album, 88, Daydream Nation.
Jerry's
Wow.
favorite album of '88 was Long Cold Winter by Cinderella. Great
I like-
album. That was on my also my you know, at the end. What's yours? What's your number one, Joseph?
Well, I think we all know what Mark and I are picking, and I'm gonna get to beat Mark to the punch with it, which is I'm glad. So
The best rock opera of all time.
damn right. Takes me back a couple of years when I was younger. This is an album that very much changed my life and opened me up to a lot more music that I hadn't listened to. And I had known a couple songs by this band, of course, from the radio and stuff. I mean, one that Eddie's co-host really dislikes. But I never really dove deep into this band, and I got this album on CD for Christmas one year, and I put it in the CD player, and I heard the opening of this album, and then 3 words that changed my life. I remember now.
Yes.
Operation Mindcrime.
Fuck yeah.
One of
That's
my
maybe not
absolute
gonna be yours.
favorite albums of all time. I mean, this listening to this album is like an experience for me. I mean,
It
I can just
flows.
sit.
It
It flows.
It
It
flows.
flows so well. It listening to this album, I can listen to this album over and over and over again, anytime. And
You
to
ever
the
heard
point where
Operation Live Crime?
I bought the overpriced box set that includes Live Crime.
Oh, that's awesome. I used to have that box set with the VHS.
Mhm.
Fucking
Yeah, this
so good. Yeah.
overpriced box set, $50. It's like 3 CDs and a DVD, but it's
I need to get
packaged
the
really
Live Crime
well.
part. That shit is great.
It's the remastered CD, both versions of Live Crime. So Live Crime, also the one recorded in '90, the Madison, Wisconsin show,
Oh wow.
as well as the DVD as well is in here.
That's fucking
So
awesome.
great, amazing album. One of my
You're gonna
favorite
make me
albums of
want to
all
look
time.
for that now. You suck.
Queensryche Operation Mindcrime. It's on Amazon. I mean, this is on Amazon.
I know. I'm an Amazon junkie, man. What do you think you're talking to? But I agree with it. My number one is Operation Mindcrime, Queensryche. It's like you listen to the Who, Tommy, you listen to Pink Floyd, The Wall. It's great. It's great, but it's choppy. This one just flows from beginning to end. There is no stop. It's like one huge story without you trying to figure shit out. It's laid out perfectly compared to The Wall or the Who, Tommy, or the other one the Who did that I love too. It's fucking the best concept album of all time to me is Operation Mindcrime.
I think you were talking about Quadrophenia.
Yeah, Quadrophenia is the other one. It doesn't flow.
I knew everyone would be like most. I knew you two would be putting that for. I like it. Don't get me wrong. It's a really good album. I'm not as into the prog metal as you guys, but it's I mean, if you're going to be into prog metal, I think it's better than what Iron Maiden was doing that year.
100%.
Yeah,
I love
it's
Seventh
great.
Son.
You know, Eye of the Beholder. You know, what's the song? What's the big hit on that?
Eyes of a Stranger.
Eyes of a Stranger. Yeah, that's a great song. And yeah, it's not one of the Queensryche albums I listen to a lot, actually.
The title track is like one of the best.
I do have it.
Needle
and
Lies.
I should listen to it more.
Needle
I
Lies.
tend to like the 3 albums before it a little bit more.
Yeah.
They're great
I
too.
love Warning, Rage for Order, the EP, all great stuff.
I even
Yeah.
like fucking I'm Gonna Get Close to You. That's a fucking
Mhm.
wicked song, man.
And I mean, I love Empire too. I mean,
I love
I'm one of
Empire,
those
too.
people that loves
I
Empire.
like Empire.
I love Q2K. I like everything.
I don't
up
go that far.
I go up to
I
American
like
Soul. I go up to
the
American.
the new album's really
Oh
good.
yeah, the
Oh, I
Todd
like all
albums
the
are great.
Tory albums,
Yeah, the
but
Todd
I go
albums
up
are
to
great.
the
I
Jet
probably
to
actually
American
listened to
Soldier.
that album more than Operation Mindcrime. But I feel bad. I should listen to Operation Mindcrime.
The new Queensryche is amazing, and so does
Yeah.
Todd Latore's solo album.
we saw them
the newest album is probably their best since
I
Mindcrime.
forget. I don't know. I've seen a lot of pre-shows for Mark. I forget.
I
which
saw
one.
them open. We saw them open up for
You were
Judas
at that
Priest.
one. Yeah, you were at that one.
Yeah, I
Because
was at that one, but then me and my other friend went to Judas Priest over here by my house, and they opened up with the newer stuff. So that was fucking pretty cool.
And the Rebel Yell cover was awesome.
Oh, fuck that shit.
I don't get that. That was weird.
Hey guys,
Doesn't fit the whole album at all.
so that was our 11 albums of 1988 that we loved. But I just want to say one thing. You guys, people making fun of people dying in a submarine, you guys fucking suck. It's like I don't understand fucking making fun of people because they're stupid, making fun of them dying in 5 people dying in a submarine. That's
They
funny.
died.
I think they did. They haven't
Nobody
found them.
confirmed it.
Yeah.
But do you think that's funny?
I don't think
Ooh.
that's ever funny.
Yeah,
No.
well, people are making funny memes about them being stupid, and I go, yeah, they may have been stupid. That's nothing to joke about.
People do. I've seen.
Yeah.
I saw people making fun of like Carrie Fisher when she died. I mean,
Yeah.
people. You learn about people on the internet. That's all you can say.
I'm just saying, I just saw a bunch of jackals like saying, let me get the funniest meme first.
Yeah.
Are we going to talk about our honorable mentions?
Yeah, I'll go ahead.
Yeah.
I'll start with you, Charles.
My honorable mentions, and I think you were fibbing. Poison open up and they say, "Ah, was your number one." We all know that.
That's on my
But,
honorable mentions.
No,
But
that's your
Poison
number
only
one.
made your honorable mention.
Yeah,
Right.
I like all these.
Come
other
I'm
on.
disappointed. I'm disappointed.
Really. Mine are. This was the hip hop one where it's just because I just like one song. DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. He's the DJ and I'm the rapper.
I like
I
that.
don't know
one.
who didn't like Parents Don't Understand.
I loved it.
Back then. It was massive. The Pixies, Surfer Rosa.
Good one.
Really good album.
I'm the only one who will pick this one. You can slam on me now. Brittany Fox, debut self-titled album.
She's hot.
Brilliant.
Turned out.
Slayers.
Look at her.
Yeah. Slayer, South of Heaven. Slick Rick, The Great Adventures of Slick Rick. Traveling Wilburys.
Yeah.
Blow Up Your Video, AC/DC. REM.
Green.
That's it.
What are you? What are yours, Edwin?
Well, as mentioned, Eric B. and Rakim, Follow the Leader. I also had Testament, The New Order. I had another more obscure alternative rock band, although they did have a big hit in the 90s on the single soundtrack, Screaming Trees with Invisible Lantern.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is really cool, kind of highly distorted, kind of sounding sludgy psychedelic rock album. Also have Death Angel, Frolic Through the Park, which I think is an underrated album. A lot of people don't like that one, although it has their biggest hit. Ford is on that.
Yeah.
And it's experimental. It's kind of there's a little touch of funk in places. It's kind of experimental. It's, again, I like this period of thrash where the bands haven't all figured out what they should sound like all the time, So I think it's not as great as the first album. And I guess I put the third one ahead of it too, but I do really like it. I think it's a good album. It's one that, I felt a little bad, didn't break my top 11 actually, but I like it. Another underrated album, by this band that's so awesome. It's not one of their best, but I do think it's underrated. It's Ram It Down. I think Judas Priest's Ram It Down is an underrated album. Yeah, that Johnny B. Good cover sucks, but everything else is pretty good on the album.
Under Blood Red Skies rules.
I love that song. That song. I like heavy metal. I love Come and Get It. I love Hard as Iron and the title track. There's a lot of great tracks on it. Definitely better than Turbo, in my opinion. And it's an underrated album. And a shout out to a great live album, one of the few really great live albums, sorry about that, for the late 80s. And that is Dawkins, Beast from the East.
Oh, that's a good one.
And also it's the last, because it's really the last true Dokken album. It's with the classic George Lynch lineup. I'm a huge Dokken fan. I did a video about them too, so you should check that out, guys, if you haven't. Joseph, did you watch my Dokken video?
Of course.
Joseph,
Love Dokken.
But yeah, I love Dokken, and I mean, I even like some of their later stuff about George Lynch and stuff. But this is like the end of the classic era. It's a great live album. I mean, the set list is amazing. They're playing all the songs you would want them to play, and it sounds fairly good for a late '80s live album. Because for the most part, '80s live albums don't sound as good as '70s live albums. They didn't put as much thought into them. I guess they sound more like real live albums, whereas the '70s, they're like treating them almost like studio albums. They put a lot of work into them. But this is great. It's a great album, and it's got awesome album cover, especially if you got the long CD box version of it, where you see the chick where you see your jeans. But I love Beast from the East. There you go. Those are my recommendations.
All right, Jerry didn't have any recommendations. What are yours, Joseph?
Alrighty, before I get into my honorable mentions, talking about live albums, I don't know if anybody else got the chance to hear this yet. I know it just came out last week. The new Motorhead live album, the 07 Montreux Jazz Festival. Great live album. Really, really killer set. But that was really cool. So for my honorable mentions, I had a couple that other people picked. I had Testament New Order, really, really good. It's in my top 5 Testament albums. Ozzy, No Rest for the Wicked was in my honorable mentions. Great, very like you guys said, it's a very solid album. And Megadeth, So Far So Good So What. Definitely prefer, as you can see, it is the original mix, not that awful 2004 remix crap. That sucks. This album's very good. So I also had 2 that did not make mine or anyone else's list, and I'm surprised. Pantera, Power Metal. First album with Phil Anselmo. Some great stuff on here. Certainly not to the level of their 90s stuff, but some great stuff on here. Pussy Tight, the title track, Proud to Be Loud. Just some really good stuff on here. Like kind of a prototype to what they become in the 90s. And also one that no one in their right mind except me likes. Kansas did a concept album in 1988 called In the Spirit of Things about the Neosho Falls flood in 1951. And it has some really good stuff on it. It has some awful ballads that the record company made them put on the album. The ballads absolutely suck. There's some really, really good stuff on here. So that's why it didn't make my list, because it's a half and half album. But the stuff that's on here that's good is really good. All right. Those are my recommendations.
So what I got was Anthrax, State of Euphoria, Ozzy, No Rest for the Wicked, R.E.M. Green, Iron Maiden, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, Blow Up Your Video, AC/DC, and Crowded House, Temple of Low Man. I love that fucking album by Crowded House. Fucking great fucking vocals on that. But that's all we have for today, man. Charles, you want to end it, brother?
Well, like, share, subscribe. Want to thank Eddy Cannistraci for coming back, and Joseph as well. And go ahead and pimp your shit there, Eddie.
Yeah, well, there's the Rock Overview podcast, which we got upcoming episode of Charles coming up, where we talk about, I'm not going to say the album, but it's the Beatles, the biggest band of all time, who we talked about earlier. So you might want to check that out. We also got our next one's going to be about the Melvins. We got a Melvins episode.
Nice.
That's going to be our next one. And, we got some, I told you we're going to do a Public Enemy one. We're going to do an Iron Maiden one. So we're going to do the one. And of course, we're going to have to get Joseph back on the show at some point.
If it's an album you guys hate, let me be on there, because I'll probably defend it.
No, it's not one we hate.
Okay.
But it's one that we're not like 100% in love with. So it's
Okay.
kind of.
I just pimping myself there because I love it.
But yeah. So, and there's also my YouTube channel, the Eddy Cannistraci YouTube channel. And I am planning, I haven't done, it takes time to do those videos. It takes a lot of time to edit them and stuff. I got the Noel Gallagher review, but I wanted to do the Queens of the Stone Age, the new album, which I really dug, but things have been kind of crazy this week. So I don't know if I'll get to it. I want to tackle some Bob Dylan. Actually, I like to do different things, like on the podcast, me and Eric kind of keep, for the most part, we throw a few curveballs like the Rick James, but usually we stick more to hard rock and heavy metal, whereas on my YouTube channel, that's where I show like my full range of music taste. So yeah, I definitely like to hit Bob Dylan. I'm going to hit Miles Davis at some point, and Iggy
Nice.
Pop, and a couple different people like that.
We
So
we
I
did
can't
the
wait to hear you
we
talk
did
about
the
Miles
first
Davis.
yeah,
what was
definitely
that
want
band? The Stooges. We did the first Stooges album with Lee. So
cool.
pretty great album, man. Iggy
Yeah,
Pop rules.
I love the Stooges. My favorite is Raw Power, so I definitely want to talk about Raw Power at some point. My
That's
second favorite album of all time is Raw Power.
There you
nice.
go. Which Miles Davis era are you thinking about doing?
This is why I've been putting off, because I can't talk about Miles Davis without talking about a pretty big chunk of his music because I love so much. But I'm gonna probably go start the second great quintet, which I'm a big fan of. Wayne Shorter, Herbie Hancock, like ESP, and I want to kind of take it all the way into the fusion.
Okay,
So,
yeah.
Ideally, I want to do like ESP to like Water Babies. So like,
Oh,
it's
nice.
like,
Yeah, that's
You should
that's
get
definitely
Lee,
an
you should get
undertaking.
Lee on
yeah,
there.
and because I want to talk about the evolution, and so it hit, in a silent way, and Miles Smiles, Bitches Brew. I want to hit all those albums, but yeah, so
You should get Lee. You should get Lee on there for commentary. He loves
it's gonna be
jazz.
so long with just me talking about
I
it.
know. Yeah, that
I'm just saying.
well, there's so much to
Lee
talk
would
about
add
with
so much
Miles
fucking
Davis.
flavor. Just
Yeah.
letting you. But what? So you gave your alsos. We all gave our alsos.
Yeah.
You have anything to pimp,
I'm
Joseph?
taking home.
Buy physical media, as I always say.
Yeah.
Always buy physical media. Support new artists. Support local bands. That's definitely a dying scene as far as local bands go. But support small town bands. Support local bands. Support small record stores. Just anything to keep music alive these days. Anything to keep the money out of Spotify's hands. That's what I say.
Fuck Spotify. But let's go. Let's get the fuck out of here. Hit the thumbs up, man. All right, guys. See you next week.
All right, man.
Later.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Later.